Let us pray. Almighty God, where you have called us to govern this province, we ask your help to make decisions and laws that will be just and that will promote the interests of the people. Almagtige God, ons bid dat u gedurende ons vergaderings ons die nodige wysheid sal gee en ons motiewe suiwer sal hou en dat u ons sal help om al ons tekortkominge te oorkom en al ons besluite aan u op te dra. Sikalela ilezwe na bantu balo, umusile ukulungu kwepondo letu. Nkosi sikalela i-Afrika, tina abantwana bayo, kokela inkokeli zayo, yoniki ukolo i-Afrika. All this we beg in your holy name. Amen. Please be seated. Good afternoon, honorable members. Before we proceed, I would like to make some comments about the logistical arrangements. Today's sitting shall be governed by the standing rules, and in instances where the rules cannot be applied, the ruling by the presiding officer is final. Honorable members, the quorum requirements for the sitting of the House are as provided for in the Constitution and in the standing rules. The Sergeant at Arms will be recording members' attendance. Members who are present in the chamber and by Microsoft Teams have all the privileges and immunities imparted by law. Honorable members, unless there is an indication of unanimous concurrence, voting will be confined to members present in the House and who are entitled to cast their votes in accordance with our standing rules. Members who are considered to be out of order by the presiding officer will have their microphones muted and will be called to order. When an honorable member wishes to raise a point of order, such an honorable member may address the presiding officer as normal, but must mute his or her microphone when he or she has completed speaking. The honorable members are kindly requested to ensure that their microphones are unmuted when they are recognized by the presiding officer and to mute their microphones when they are finished speaking. I kindly request that those who are not members of the House to observe the decorum of the House. Honorable members, for the purposes of this sitting, language interpreting services are available by using the devices at your disposal. Honorable members, I wish to remind you that no interjections are permitted during these hybrid sittings, and to this end, I wish to draw your attention to Rule 40 of our standing rules. The Secretary and the administration will ensure that there is dedicated technical support at all times during the sitting. Honorable members, before I recognize the Chief Whip, I wish to welcome all the guests to the WCPP. Welcome to the Western Cape Provincial Parliament, and I trust that you will enjoy the sitting today. I recognize the Chief Whip.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Just the Deputy Chief Whip. Speaker, notwithstanding the provisions of Rule 20, Section 1, I want to move that the subject of discussion receive precedence. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much. In the absence of the Chief Whip, the acting Chief Whip, just for the record. Thank you very much. Honorable members, are there any objections to that motion being moved with the motion being moved? No objections. Agreed to. Honorable members, before I recognize the Honorable Bryant, in whose name the subject for discussion is, I wish to remind the honorable members participating in the sitting today virtually, as indicated in previous sittings, would request that you please put on your camera if you wish to participate virtually in the interest of the citizens, so that the citizens that we are representing can see who is speaking. I have requested this before, and so I trust that I can count on your support to ensure that we continue doing so. Honorable members, we will now deal with the subject for discussion in the name of the Honorable D.W. Bryant as printed on the order paper. I recognize the Honorable Bryant.
Thank you, Speaker. A little while ago, I met a woman from Knysna. She didn't ask me about politics. She didn't ask me about the latest coalition or who was winning the argument in council. She asked a much simpler question. When, she said, will Knysna start working again? I listened as she spoke about the ongoing unreliable services, about uncertainty, about never quite knowing whether basic municipal functions would happen when they should. And as she spoke, it struck me that her frustration was in fact about trust. The trust that when you pay your rates, your municipality will deliver, and that your elected representatives will spend time solving your problems, not creating more of them. Speaker, every municipality faces challenges, be that population growth, limited resources, aging infrastructure, economic pressures, or crime. And I'm sure that we'll hear some cherry-picked examples today from the opposition that will attempt to suggest that DA-led governments intentionally neglect certain challenges. But pointing to challenges is a very easy thing to do. Demonstrating how government has responded to those challenges is what we should really be doing. Does the government in question plan properly? Do they invest? Do they build capable institutions? And let's begin by asking these questions of the municipality we are currently in, the city of Cape Town. This is a city under constant pressure. More and more people arrive every year seeking opportunity in the province with the lowest unemployment rate. Therefore, Cape Town's infrastructure must continually expand. The demand for more affordable housing grows. The expectations placed on local government increases. Yet despite these pressures, the city of Cape Town has continued to invest in infrastructure, strengthen water resilience, maintain comparatively strong financial management, and create conditions that continue to attract investment and economic activity. This happened because the DA-led administration made difficult choices consistently year after year. Because, Speaker, good government is built through steady leadership, careful planning, and institutions that function even when the politics becomes difficult. And let me just address one of the most persistent myths from the opposition, which is that the DA-led city of Cape Town only invests in historically wealthy, predominantly white suburbs. This is complete nonsense, and the facts tell a completely different story. The city's largest infrastructure investments are actually directed towards lower income communities, with major projects including
Honourable Brian,
My
please
City.
take your seat. Honourable Ngaisu, is that a point of order?
Thank you very much, Speaker.
Honourable Member, is that a point of order? Order. Honourable Member, is that a point of order?
Thanks for protecting me, Speaker of the House.
Honourable Member, please speak to me.
Okay. I would like to establish, Speaker, through you, whether is the member prepared to take a question.
I will ask the member. Honourable Bryant, are you prepared to take a question?
No, I'm not.
The Honourable Member is not prepared to take a question. Honourable Bryant, you may continue.
The city's largest infrastructure investments are actually directed towards lower income communities, with major projects including the My City expansion linking Khayelitsha and Mitchell's Plain to the rest of the city, the multi-billion rand upgrade of the Zandvliet wastewater treatment works serving Khayelitsha, upgrades to roads along the Govan and Mbeki corridor, improvements to informal trader facilities in Mitchell's Plain, non-motorized transport projects in Khayelitsha and Gugulethu, and continued investment in libraries, community facilities, water and sanitation infrastructure across the Cape Flats. Do challenges still exist in these communities? Of course they do. But weigh up what's been done, what's being done, and what is planned going forward, and you'll find that the city of Cape Town is in fact on the right path under the DA. And now let's come back to Knysna. This is a town blessed with extraordinary natural beauty and enormous economic potential. It should be thriving. Yet the past 4 years of political chaos under the ANC and PA coalitions have seen this iconic town brought to its knees. And just a reminder of some of the issues that Knysna has faced over the past 4 years under these coalitions of chaos. The municipality almost ran out of water. This year in March, the municipality was forced to reveal that day zero was approaching, along with a possible shutdown of the reticulation system. There's a strong likelihood that if Minister Burdell had not intervened, this would indeed have happened. Refuse collection has collapsed in Knysna. Residents started complaining about missed refuse collections and declining cleanliness, and by 2024, they'd begun protesting in the streets over service delivery failures, specifically refuse collection. The Western Cape government confirmed ongoing concerns about municipal waste facility compliance, stating that continued non-compliance and alleged mismanagement led to enforcement action, including a compliance notice and steps towards opening a criminal docket. The electricity supply broke down. Residents started to report ongoing outages and interruptions, maintenance issues, and dissatisfaction with municipal responses. And the municipality's own notices during 2025 recorded multiple planned electricity interruptions and service notices affecting various networks. The infrastructure started collapsing. This included the water network, wastewater and sewage infrastructure, roads and stormwater issues, and ongoing general maintenance backlogs. And finally, added to all of this, the residents of Knysna are now facing increasing municipal charges for water, wastewater, electricity, and refuse, being forced to pay for services that are deteriorating. Knysna, along with smaller municipalities like Kannaland, remind us why the stakes are so high when it comes to local government elections. Our smaller municipalities are not able to absorb repeated political shocks because their resources are tighter. These areas simply need government that focuses on doing the basics right. Without a stable base, we will not be able to grow these areas to their full potential and increase investment. Speaker, while every political party would agree that they prefer a majority and a mandate to govern, coalitions are now part of our political landscape. Coalition governments can succeed, but only if they're built around shared purpose rather than preferred positions. Coalitions that are based purely on political patronage and personal favors will never succeed in the long run. Strong leadership matters a great deal, but strong institutions actually matter more. No municipality's success should depend on one single personality, because false promises, much like lies, have short legs. One only has to revisit the plans to turn Beaufort West into Dubai to see how important it is to be able to back up big promises. Speaker, our residents are not asking for perfection. They understand that governing is difficult. They understand that our resources are limited, but they want governments that listen and actually respond to their day-to-day challenges. DA-led governments provide that clear blue water between success and failure, and we will continue to do so going forward in the best interests of all the people of the Western Cape. Thank you.
Honourable Adams, is that a point of order?
Speaker, I'd like to check if the honourable member isn't too scared to ask a question, answer a question.
Honourable member, I will provide an opportunity for Honourable Brian to respond because there are 31 seconds left. Honourable Brian, are you prepared to take a question?
Chair, if he can ask his question, I can answer it in 30 seconds. I'm more than happy to do so.
Honourable Adams, you can pose the question through me to the member.
I'll ask it as quickly as possible. Does the honourable member know that the DA ruined Knysna in the 15 years that they were in charge in Knysna? Thank you, Chair.
Honourable Bryant.
Yes, I am aware of that, Speaker, and I am also aware that the DA spent a considerable amount of time investing in the infrastructure, which the coalition of chaos, when they came in 2022, then destroyed and broke down to the state that Knysna is currently in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Order. Honourable Ngensu, is that a point of order?
I want to establish whether the member prepared to take a question from me.
Thank you very much.
I,
Please take your seat. Order, members. Honourable Bryant, are you prepared to take a question from the Honourable Ngensu?
Speaker, I can. We've only got 8 seconds, but we can.
Honourable, the members prepared to take your question?
is the member aware that in the city of Cape Town alone, there are more than 950 squatter camps? And what are they doing about them?
Thank you very much. Honourable Bryant.
Speaker, I'm not going to be able to answer that question in 5 seconds, but we know we have challenges and the City of Cape Town is working towards fixing those under the DA-led City of Cape Town. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Bryant. Your time has expired. I recognize the Honorable Syed.
Honorable Speaker, Honorable Premier, members, our guests in the gallery, residents of the Western Cape. This debate brings into sharp focus serious revelations within the Democratic Alliance and from investigative journalism. We therefore ask whether the DA in this House have permission from the political grandmaster Tony Leon and the political puppeteer Ryan Coetzee to engage honestly in today's debate. Since 2009, the DA-led provincial government and its municipalities have cultivated public trust under the facade of capable governance. Recent revelations expose a toxic DA network of resolving doors between its representatives in government, party representatives and staff, and partisan DA-aligned consultancies nationally and in the Western Cape. They suggest that politically and electorally, unelected individuals on the DA's payroll, including DA-aligned advisors and consultants, enjoy unauthorized access to privileged government information and decision-making. The Western Cape nexus is consequential. This province and its municipalities, under the control of the DA, have been the jewels in the DA crown since 2009.
Honorable Syed, please take a seat. Honorable Walters, is that a point of order?
Yes, I really want to ask a question. Would
I
you
will-
allow,
I will-
you, Chair,
I
can I
will
ask a
the
question?
member. To the Leader of the Opposition, are you prepared to take a question?
No.
The Honorable Member is not prepared to take your question, Honorable Walters. Honorable Syed, you may continue.
Speaker, for 16 years, the same political conveyor belt of individuals ran through DA headquarters, Wales Street, Cape Town Civic Centre, public entities, DA-aligned consultancies, and back into the corridors of political power. Ryan Coetzee, Nick Cleland-Stokes, Gavin Davis, and Paul Bowie were embedded in the Western Cape government's communication architecture in 2010, before moving between the DA, the provincial government, the City of Cape Town, Resolve, and Consulum. The 2010 Western Cape government communications tender and public record identify an evaluation committee comprising of all 4 individuals. Their names are central to current resolving door revelations and continuing influence of Tony Leon. Former DA Member of Parliament Tim Harris's rise as Director of Trade and Investment in the Cape Town Mayor's office and later as CEO of Westgrow raises similar governance concerns. Today, Harris's Helm Growth Advisors manages the Inner City Mission Initiative and curiously occupies the same offices once used by Consulum, where Harris was a partner. This is politically promiscuous collusion. This blurred distinction between the DA, its operatives, its government representatives, private entities, and its implications for governance and service delivery should deeply concern this legislature. This legislature must probe this web of subservience to DA political royalty and patronage. The Premier must explain if promises and deals were made with Tony Leon behind the scenes as part of the DA's GNU negotiating team, and what favorable concessions by the provincial government or this legislature was secured for clients of Resolve Communications or other DA-aligned entities and individuals now under scrutiny. The Premier and members of the Provincial Executive Council must disclose all official visits to Dubai and the United Arab Emirates, including any meetings with Consulum and or Ryan Coetzee. With the full cooperation of the Premier and the Executive Council, the House must establish an independent probe into impropriety between the provincial government, DA representatives in this House, and DA-led municipalities and entities or individuals materially connected to these relationships. And this includes the privileged client access to the provincial government and legislature, its information and decisions. The entities of DA-aligned consultants who participated in, advised on, or accessed provincial policy, lawmaking, procurement, regulatory or executive processes, and under whose authority. All procurement, contracts, primary vendor arrangements, and subcontracts.
Honourable Side,
involving
please take your
provincial
seat.
Government.
Honourable Deputy Chief Whip, is that a point of order?
Yes, Speaker, in terms of the rules, I would like to establish the relevance in terms of the topic that we're discussing. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honourable Side, I hear what the Deputy Chief Whip is raising. I want to caution you to get back to the topic on the order paper. If there's any other issue or topic you want to bring it to the attention of the House, there's other parliamentary mechanisms at your disposal. But you may continue. If you want to address me, please rise.
Chair, the point I wanted to make is that if you listen to the content, the issues he raises has a direct impact on service delivery in this province. And thus, there has to be ventilated and contextualized within the context of the debate.
Thank you very much. I'm
So,
not going to.
Therefore, it's relevant.
Thank you very much. I've already addressed the issue raised by the Deputy Chief Whip. Honourable Syed, I wish to remind you of the topic on the order paper. So I'm not going to entertain this any further. No further points of order. Honourable Syed, you may continue.
No surprise in the political debate. Involving the provincial government, this legislature, DA-led municipalities, yes, we're talking about municipalities, resolve communications, consulum, or related entities and individuals. The extent of any improper influence exercised by these networks over provincial ministries, departments, public entities, or DA-led municipalities, all official engagements between members of the provincial executive and this House and representatives of those firms acting for clients. If no conflicts exist, Speaker, the mechanisms through which potential conflicts were identified, assessed, managed, and no pun intended, resolved.
Honourable Syed, please take your seat. Honourable Syed,
Syed,
please take your seat. Honourable Deputy Chief Whip, is that a point of order?
Yes, Speaker, I rise on Rule 59, 1 and 2. I believe that the member is improperly reflecting on members. And the rule, the second part of that rule says that he must bring a substantive motion if he has got such indication. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honourable members, I will revert to Hansard and I'll come back to the House with the ruling if there is a need to do so.
DA Western Cape capture has entrenched kleptocracy, where governing power extracts and distributes public resources through DA-aligned political and economic networks. This legislature must determine the extent of institutional and policy capture entrenched under 16 years of DA one-party dominance. The boundaries between the DA, the administration it controls, former senior party officials, donors, DA-aligned private consultancies, and their clients are dangerously porous, creating privileged channels of influence over public power at the expense of transparent governance and effective service delivery. This legislature has a constitutional duty to ensure that the people of the Western Cape know who appoints whom, who moves between government and private firms, who receives contracts, who enjoys privileged access, who influences public decisions, whether conflicts of interest are disclosed, and whether oversight remains genuinely independent. If the DA has nothing to hide, and clearly through the inputs here and interjections they do, it must urgently support and cooperate with establishing this probe. Refusing to exposes DA lip service to the capability and service delivery it claims as foundations of public trust in this debate. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honourable Saad. I recognize the Honourable Adams. Die achtbare Adams. Die achtbare Adams. Order members, there's a member on the floor. Honourable Adams, you may continue.
Speaker, the people of Knysna remember the 15 years under the Democratic Alliance. They remember the failures of service delivery. And that is why the people of Knysna, not the people that has in Knysna, the people of Knysna will never again vote for the DA. That is why the people of Knysna will never vote for the DA. Speaker, I was in Worcester. There was a street, it's called Khan Street. The sewage was in that street. For 4 months, no service delivery was rendered in Avian Park in Worcester. It's DA controlled because it was an ANC ward. They did not want to go fix the sewage pipe. Speaker, in Bonteheuwel, the sewage was lying in the streets when we got there last week. In Blikkiesdorp, for 19 years, the people were living under constant sewage overflow. The streets are full of sewage in Blikkiesdorp for 19 years. And the DA is talking about service delivery. Haai bo, julle moet julle skaam. Speaker, that is why the public protector has said in
Honourable Adams, please take your seat. Achtbare Minister, is dit 'n punt van orde?
Yes, Honourable Speaker, I just would like to ask the Honourable Member a question.
I will ask the Honourable Member if he's prepared to take a question.
Now 5 seconds left, Speaker.
The Honourable Adams, are you prepared to take a question? Yes or no?
No.
The Honourable Member is not prepared to take a question, Minister. Honourable Adams, you may continue.
You see, Speaker, the public protector has said that the city of Cape Town, under the DA-led municipal city, is failing our people. Sanitation, sewage management, municipal housing maintenance, and no functional public lighting everywhere almost in the areas where our people are living, where they want our people to vote for them. There's unsafe and undignified living conditions with overflowing sewage, broken infrastructure everywhere. There's a risk of crime. The public protector found maladministration and improper conduct by the city in failing to meet its constitutional obligations. 821 million rand for housing that was meant to be spent to build RDP houses.
Achtbare Adams, neem asseblief jou sitplek in. Honourable Masipa, is there a point of order?
Yes, Honourable Speaker, I just want to ask if the member is prepared to take a question about the ANC PA Public Protector.
I will ask don't pose your question. I want to allow the Honourable Member the opportunity to indicate if he is prepared. Honourable Masipa, I'm on the floor. Can you please take your seat? Honourable Adams, can you take your seat? Honourable Adams, are you prepared to take a question?
No, Speaker.
The Honourable Member is not prepared to take a question. Side, is that a new point of order?
Yes, Chair. Honourable Masipa.
What's
I
your point
didn't
of
want
order?
to do this, but the point of order, just a point of correction. There's no public protector who belongs to a political party. It's not an ANCPA public protector.
That is not the point of order. Honourable Side, just for the record, that is not a point of order. Honourable Walters, is that a new point of order?
Chair, this is actually not a point of order meant to disrupt anything. I just wanted to check whether Member Adams is in the right seat, and if he's not, then we must just give him the opportunity to get into the right seat in terms of the rules of the House.
Absolutely.
So I don't want to disrupt. It is the rule, though.
That is actually a valid point of order. So can I just ask the table staff if they can just indicate if the member in the correct seat, is he speaking from the correct seat? The member is indeed speaking from the correct seat. Honorable Adams, you may continue.
He was sleeping the whole time, Speaker. Now he's asking if I'm in the right seat. Speaker, the public protector emphasized that the budget constraint, staffing shortage, and crime do not remove the city's constitutional duty to provide basic services to all our people. Speaker, I have laid a complaint against the Democratic Alliance in the Western Cape at the Human Rights Commission for failing to adjust to our people's constitutional right to have housing. Every year they're sending money back and blaming the ANC while it's their poor planning that is failing our people. In the last 5 years, almost 2 billion rand of money that was supposed to deliver houses to our people was sent back to national government. And every year it becomes lesser and lesser. Sleg, dia, sleg.
Thank you very much. Your time has expired. Order, members. I recognize the Honorable Walters. Do you need the podium? Honorable Walters, do you need the podium? Do you need the podium or?
No, it's fine. Thank you very much.
I recognize you, Honorable Walters.
Honourable Speaker, the question of service delivery should not simply be understood as an empty phrase or a buzzword bandied about in political discourse. It should be understood as a key concept intimately connected to the notion of democracy as a functional system that advances both the material well-being of our citizens, especially the poor, as well as a key constitutional mandate of government. A true democracy measures itself in terms of whether the underlying constitutional precepts of a right to a better life and dignity is given effect. Service delivery is therefore a useful and objective barometer of the health of a democracy, the best practices that gives effect to a democracy, and also which parties can be trusted in democratic contestation during elections. Honourable Speaker, according to the Auditor General's 2024-2025 Consolidated General Report, the local audit outcomes, 62 municipalities in South Africa are in severe financial distress, and only 35% of municipalities are in good financial health. Often we hear the convenient trope that AG reports are not relevant to the poor, nearly elevating poor governance to a supposedly pro-poor virtue. It's a pathetic defense mechanism against having to take ownership for failure, and hypocritically the same people are...
Honourable Walters, please take your seat. Honourable Gens, is that a point of order?
Yes, Speaker, I want to
What's your point of order?
Whether Member Masimba is she given the responsibility to be the chair supporter of Honourable Walters?
That is not a point of order. And honourable members, I want to at this point remind all honourable members that it is unparliamentary to rise on frivolous points of orders. Order. Honourable Walters, I'm still on the floor. I'm still on the floor.
Oh, sorry.
So can I please remind the honourable members that frivolous points of orders are unparliamentary, and I will rule because this you absolutely have a right to raise a point of order, but please do not do so in order to try and break the speed of another member that's got a right to be on the floor in terms of the order paper. Honourable Walters, you may continue.
It's a pathetic defense mechanism against having to take ownership for failure, and hypocritically the same people are quick to jump on criticism of their opponents when AG reports are convenient for themselves. In short, to summarize, the argument that AG reports don't count is utter rubbish. If you do not have money and if you manage your money poorly as a government, you are stealing the basic services from especially
Honourable
the poor.
Walters, please take your seat. Honourable Ngwensu, what's your point of order?
Through you, Chair, I want to establish whether Member Walters is he prepared to take a question.
Please take your seat. Honourable member, are you prepared to take a question?
No, but I'll give him an answer. Honourable Speaker. The ANC
Yes or no?
should stop being corrupt.
Honourable Walters, yes or no? Are you prepared
They
to
are
take a
corrupt.
question?
Oh,
Are you
no, my apologies.
Honourable Walters,
my
are you
answer is-
prepared to take
my
a
answer is
question?
no. My apologies, Speaker. My answer is no.
The honourable member is not prepared to take a question.
But the
Honourable Walters,
ANC
you may continue.
that the ANC is corrupt. It is clear that the 35% of municipalities where there is sound financial health are largely those where the DA are in charge. It is also clear that the 62 municipalities that is in a state of collapse or where the ANC and its ally in misrule, the PA is in charge. It is also clear that in the few instances where municipalities are failing in the Western Cape, it is where these parties are in charge. Knysna, Theewaterskloof and Kannaland. Honourable Speaker,
Honourable Walters, please take your seat. Honourable Adams, is that a point of order? Order, members. There's a member on the floor. Honourable Adams.
Speaker, the honourable member mustn't tell lies here. He mustn't.
What is your point of order? Order. Honourable member, what's your point of order?
Speaker, the ANC is not in charge in Kannaland. The good is in charge. The honourable member must go and research before he speaks.
Honourable member, that is not the point of order. Honourable members, the parliamentary rules are clear. Those standing rules that we have all accepted at the beginning of our term. When you do not agree with a statement made in the House, you use the parliamentary mechanisms to your disposal or at your disposal to correct the information. But it's not a dialogue. It's a debate, and if you do not agree across the floor, it's not you don't get up and correct the facts. You use your time allotted to correct it. Honourable Walters, so just for the record, that is not a point of order. Honourable Walters, you may continue.
Honourable Speaker, I am corrected though, quite appropriately. No one is in charge in Knysna by the looks of it. Honourable Speaker, everything that I've said is not what the DA is saying, it is what the AG is saying. It is what clear, objective reading of which parties are in charge is saying. I therefore submit to this House, endorsed by President Cyril Ramaphosa's comments as to where his party can learn best practice, that the DA is the party that represents best practice, the most effective manifestation of our constitutional mandate, and best care of all residents under its care.
Honourable Walters.
No.
Honourable Walters, please take your seat. Honourable Ngensu, is that a point of order? What is your point of order?
Whether the use of the word rubbish is parliamentary or not.
I will check Hansard and revert back to the House. My immediate response is that it's not unparliamentary, but let me consult Hansard and come back to the House if there is a need to. Honourable Adams, is that a new point of order?
Speaker, it is unparliamentary to call the President Mr. Sir Ramaphosa.
That is not a point of order. Order, members. There's a member on the floor. Order. Honourable members, there's a member on the floor. The honourable member has been allocated time, and this continuous interruption with points of orders, I'm not going to entertain for the remainder of the 3 minutes and 49 seconds for Honourable Walters. If you look at the time allocated to Honourable Walters, if you consult Hansard, you will see the interruptions that this member had to endure. And that is my final ruling. Honourable Ngensu, if you have an issue with my ruling, there's other parliamentary mechanisms at your disposal. Then you can challenge my ruling through other avenues. Honourable Walters, you may continue, and now you are protected.
Garbage is perhaps a better word, but maybe you should make a ruling there as well. Nowhere will you hear arguments from our opposition showing best practice in the ANC or PA fiefdoms. You will hear the following formula. 1, division on the basis of race and class, deliberately abusing the hurt of the past. 2, enthusiastic and deliberate messaging, trying to associate the DA provincial government, municipal governments with national government failure. It's essentially the main objective of our opponents in this House. 3, the psychological surrender of its own moral high ground by weak attempts to try to show that the DA is as bad as us. That is when you know your opponent is surrendering. We just heard that formula at play with the Honourable Member Sayed earlier on. The repetition of anecdotal and individual experiences, possibly untruthfully, to try to counter the sheer weight of evidence that the DA is increasingly the centre of democratic restoration and progress. It's the tired formula of distraction, personalising, emoting, and repetition that inevitably fails over time. Honourable Speaker, since we hopefully agree that basic services, service delivery and best practice is a key component of a successful democracy, it stands to reason, it's superior logic, to borrow the communist phrase, that those who display best practice and best management should have the opportunity to use it, especially if our constitution creates space for that. Surely, given where best practice is situated, our national counterparts should support the Premier's Water Resilience Council with mandate and budget and devolution, especially as he's trying to save the National Department of Water and Sanitation from its decades-old mismanagement and underinvestment. A 400 billion rand water infrastructure deficit that our opponents are trying to distract from by blaming municipalities has developed over 32 years of misrule. It is time that this mandate and budget goes to where it will not be wasted in the 700 billion snake pit of corruption brought to us by Lethuli House over the last 32 years. A practice backed enthusiastically by an estimated R500 billion rands of bailout of corrupt and failing state enterprises. Yet, Tony Leon seems to be an obsession. The same can be said for the estimated 130 billion infrastructure backlog for the paved roads and the 281 billion backlog in gravel road infrastructure. Let that mandate and budget rather go to where it will not be wasted. Local electricity distribution networks face up to a 40 billion rand a year backlog. Imagine that was under the control of the Premier's Energy Council and backed up by budget. Imagine the 30 million spent on luxury travel by the PA leader to the FIFA World Cup was spent on helping sports clubs in rural areas travel to their sport games, their rugby games.
Honourable Walters, please take a seat. Honourable Said, is that a point of order?
Chair, on a point of order, the Honourable Walters misled the House. The info that I mentioned in my speech is not anecdotal.
Honourable Said,
it is in the public domain.
Honourable Said, that is not a point of order. Honourable members, I previously ruled, Honourable Said, on exactly that point. If you do not agree with the facts or the opinion of another member, there's mechanisms at your disposal to correct it. But you cannot correct it across the floor through points of orders because it's not a dialogue. Honourable Walters, you may continue.
Honourable Speaker, we have honourable members in this House. I genuinely believe so. I believe deep down they are deeply relieved that the DA is in charge in the Western Cape. Imagine what this government will be able to do if it was allowed to do what it can do. It is my sincere hope that the era of the GNU, the second transition in South Africa, opens up this debate, the debate about service delivery and the importance of that in our democracy, and that the protecting of power and the misleading of vulnerable voters can come to an end. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Walters. Honourable members, I now recognize the Honourable Kasim on the virtual platform.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Speaker, this debate comes at a very crucial time when the country and the province is preparing for the local government election, which will take place in a few months' time. Speaker, this debate also comes at the backdrop of the Public Protector's recent release report on the lack of service delivery by the City of Cape Town municipality, titled Violation of Residents' Rights. The report identified a plethora of long-standing lack of service delivery failures by the DA-run City of Cape Town municipality, especially in townships such as Langa and Khayelitsha. The report found that the municipality cannot even provide the most basic services to residents, which on its own amounted to maladministration and the violation of services to residents, and the violation of human rights. Speaker, Chief amongst these violations included safety, structural housing defects, inadequate sanitation infrastructure, healthcare facilities, safety defects, as well as electricity coordination failures. It is not a coincidence, Speaker, that service delivery failures in the province is only reported in townships where majority of African and coloured residents reside, as opposed to the metro and leafy suburbs where majority of white reside and are protected by deliberate skewed spatial planning policies by the municipality and the provincial government. Speaker, another thing that robbed the people of this province of proper and adequate service delivery is the entrenched consistent culture and tradition of under expenditure, both by the municipality and provincial government departments. It does not make sense that the province has a backlog of housing applicants, and at the same time, same rate, the provincial infrastructure department keeps failing to spend its own allocated budget, which must return to Treasury every financial year in unspent funds. Speaker, the people of the Western Cape are being robbed of what it feels to have an accountable, responsive, and transparent government, which does not take the concerns and plight of the poor serious. Currently, the people of SST, Marikana, and Philippi East are without portable drinking water, whilst we're busy debating here. Speaker, the lack of service delivery does not only rob our people of the promises that were made to them when we knocked on every door requesting them to vote for a better government. In the main, it robs them of their dignity. Speaker, a person residing in an informal settlement without water and who have to go and relieve themselves out in the bushes every day and night will never feel they have a sense of dignity.
Thank you very much, Honourable Kasim. I now recognize the Honourable Michaels. Honourable Michaels, do you need the podium?
Yes, all right, Speaker. Thank you. Speaker, ek sit met my statement hier en ek sit ook met my response op die debate. Maar ek het nou besluit na aanleiding van die idee wat almal korrabbel maak behalwe hulle self, het ek nou besluit om my statement te lees, want dit spreek tot die misleidende politiek wat hulle hier in die huis speel. Die DEA en die minister van Finansies, provinsiale minister van Finansies, het telke male in hierdie huis gepraat oor die swak finansiële bestuur van Theewaterskloof munisipaliteit. Hulle het hierdie huis gebruik om die publiek daar buite te mislei met hul goedkoop en misleidende politiek. Het hulle vergeet, numbers don't lie. As die DEA regeer, dan is daar 'n stilte as dit by hul swak bestuur kom. Kom ons kyk wat sê die numbers wat Theewaterskloof munisipaliteit betref. Die waarheid is die waarheid. Laat my toe om met die boekjaar 2024-2025 te begin onder DEA beheer in TWK. Unauthorized expenditure 178 miljoen. Hier, nou, the DEA took over. This is
Honourable Michael, speak to me, then I can protect you. Praat met my, dan kan ek jou beskerm.
Jammer, Speaker.
Order members, there's a member on the floor.
Jammer, Speaker. Ons gaan terugkom. Wat hulle absoluut gegovern het in TWK 2026 tot 2021. Kom ons kyk na die tydperk 2016 tot 2021 toe die DEA Theewaterskloof met 'n absoluut meerderheid beheer het. 2017-2018 boekjaar irregular expenditure 19 miljoen. 2018-2019 boekjaar 2 miljoen. 2019-2020 irregular expenditure 5 miljoen. 2020-2021 unauthorized expenditure 105 miljoen. Irregular expenditure 200 miljoen. En dit is wat die IG sê, is nie wat John Michaels of die NCC sê nie. Die tyd het aangepak.
Agbare lid, jou tyd is verstreke.
Dankie, ek het my boodskap oorgekry.
Thank you very much.
Die is korrup.
Order. I recognize the Honourable Marais. Do you need the podium?
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, the system is broken.
Agbare Marais, jou microfoon is af. Kan jy dit net aanskakel vir die rekord?
Moet ek oorbegin?
Jy kan oorbegin, kan ek net bevestiging kry van die tafel? Is julle is die lid se mikrofoon aan?
Baie dankie, Speaker. Speaker, the system is broken. The system of government has been infiltrated by incompetent, unethical persons who continue to break down the very system meant to provide basic services to all communities, including clean running water, supply to households, safe environment, and dignified housing. I recently visited the community of Delft on the Cape Flats, and I saw incomplete housing projects where only concrete foundations remain. I saw incomplete roads and pavements overgrown with grass and weeds. And I saw the failed promises of this government and the city of Cape Town. The Freedom Front Plus believes that service delivery begins with three principles: ethical leadership, a competent administration, and accountability. We need honest people in government, worthy of the positions they hold. Government has an inherent duty to appoint persons that are competent, able to properly scrutinize contractors.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I now recognize the Minister of Finance, Minister Bartman. Do you need the podium? Then you may continue. Order members, Honourable Minister, you may continue.
Honourable Speaker, residents of the Western Cape, at the heart of effective local government lies fair and responsive financing. Municipalities carry a constitutional responsibility to provide basic services, yet the local government equitable share formula has not kept pace with realities on the ground. Research commissioned by our Department of Local Government found that Western Cape municipalities are generally providing free basic services at or above the national minimum standards, particularly for indigent households. The challenge is how to sustain and finance increasingly generous support packages in a context of rising costs, aging infrastructure, increased poverty, and constrained national transfers. The current National Free Basic Services basket includes 6 kiloliters free water per month, 50 kilowatts free electricity per month, basic sanitation support, and basic refuse removal support. The support is viewed nationally as enough for survival, but Speaker, it is not enough for a dignified life. This is why several municipalities in the Western Cape are going beyond the national mandate. The City of Cape Town offers 15 kilowatts of free water, 60 kilowatts of electricity, 100% property rates rebate for qualifying households, and full sanitation and refuse subsidies. In fact, the research showed that Cape Town provides among the highest free water allocations of any metro in this country. Overstrand, for example, is also one of the strongest examples of support offered above the national norms. The municipality provides 10 kiloliters free water, 70 kilowatts electricity, and full sanitation and refuse subsidies. And in Stellenbosch, for example, electricity support is double the national minimum at 100 kilowatts free electricity. In addition to this expanding support for indigent households, growing demand brought on by population growth continue to place pressure on municipal budgets across the province. A municipality cannot tell a family seeking opportunity that they must wait for the funding formula to catch up before receiving basic services. This is why the Western Cape government continues to advocate for a more responsive funding model nationally. Through our submissions on the revision of revenue legislation, budget forum engagements, representations in National Treasury, and continued cooperation with the Government of National Unity, we continually advocate for an equitable share formula that properly recognizes population growth, migration patterns, infrastructure pressures, and real service delivery costs. Unfortunately, incremental changes are not enough. We will keep pushing for stronger weightings of municipal population dynamics and infrastructure demand. We further need to reconsider the vertical split of the national budget for local governments. They are currently sitting at approximately 9.8% of the total national budget, and they really should be at a minimum of 10%, as the other 90% should be funded through municipal funding they receive from taxpayers. Further to this, we need to relook how many units of water and electricity is subsidized via the national local government equitable share formula, and whether the constitutional minimum therefore should increase. And this is part of the work that our Department of Local Government is assisting with. But we must be honest, funding alone will not solve South Africa's local government crisis. Severe financial distress in many municipalities also stem from weak governance, political instability, coalition infighting, and the absence of accountability. The AG, actually, I know the AG's report was mentioned by Frinkul. It actually said of Kanaland, quote, there's a culture of no consequence management, quote, closed. Too often municipalities collapse not because there's no money, but because there is no leadership. The recent decision by National Treasury to withhold the equitable share allocations from municipalities with high unauthorized, irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure makes this clear. In the Western Cape, 3 municipalities were affected, and prior to the national announcement, the Provincial Treasury was successfully able to assist 2 municipalities from being excluded from that list, Kanaland and Knysna. Provincial Treasury is providing intensive monitoring, technical assistance, and specialized UIF WE training to the rest on the list.
Honourable
We have
Minister,
seen this
please take your
approach work
seat.
before.
Honourable Genso, is that a point of order?
There's no capacity to be out of order. But I want to establish
No.
Uh,
That is completely uncalled for.
what
And honourable member, and I'm going to ask you to withdraw your statements about the minister.
what did I say?
She does not have the capacity.
No, you didn't get me. You didn't get me. I said she has no capacity to be out of order.
Okay. Then I apologize, but I heard that.
Yeah.
What is your point of order?
Don't be overprotective, okay?
No, I'm not overprotective. I'm protecting the minister on the floor like I protect you. So
Okay.
please speak to
I
me.
would like to establish whether is the MEC prepared to take a good question.
Honourable Minister, are you prepared to take a question?
Not at this time. I still need to get to Theewaterskloof, Speaker.
The Honourable Minister is not prepared to take a question. Is that a new point of order? Because you can't rise on a point of order.
No, not on. No, she's only she has to go to TWK. Now, must I wait till she comes back before I ask the question?
I think you and the minister can have that conversation outside of the chamber. The minister is not prepared to take a question at this point. Honourable Minister, you may continue.
Thank you, Speaker. We will continue working with the affected municipalities to meet reduction targets and restore funding. Dit is wel belangrik om te beklemtoon dat Beaufort-Wes, Laingsburg en Theewaterskloof nie oornag in hierdie posisie beland het nie. Die finansiële uitdagings is as gevolg van jare se swak bestuur deur politikuste wat hulself bo hul gemeenskappe geplaas het. En dit gaan jare neem om hulle weer op dreef te kry. Om oor Theewaterskloof te praat, Theewaterskloof was on the brink of bankruptcy before the province had to step in with intervention. They were literally on the brink of not being able to pay salaries right before Christmas. And then the province had to step in. And now we are finally starting to see slow but progress. So we must also ask the same members that were their political parties who were in charge of Theewaterskloof why they don't want to deal with the UIFWE, that we have to write countless of letters to tell them how it is wrong what they are doing in the municipality. And because of not correctly writing UIFWE, hier is op daai lys van National Treasury waar hulle sê ons withhold die equitable share tot en met jy dit reg doen. In the 3 municipalities are still under financial recovery plan are Beaufort-Wes that we see, and they have moved to stabilization phase with a little bit of an improved revenue collection. Theewaterskloof, we've finally been able to negotiate with Eskom in order to intend a repayment arrangement. Kanaland, the implementation of the smart electricity meters have already brought in approximately R1 million in savings, which we will now use to repay the Eskom debt that they weren't paying previously. But Speaker, we must also compare what is happening in the province in terms of audits, in terms of the broader picture. The broader picture is in 2024-25, the audit period, 25 of our 30 municipalities achieved unqualified opinions, with 20 of them securing clean audits. Beaufort-Wes, I'm proud to say, Speaker, now recorded its first unqualified audit since 2016. And Cedarburg also achieved a clean audit because we are continuously assisting municipalities to be able to get this over the line. You know, people always say that, you know, you can't eat clean audits, but the type of dismissive attitude.
Madam Minister, Honourable Leader of the Opposition, is that a point of order?
I know the Honourable Minister must go to Theewaterskloof, but I think she's past Theewaterskloof. So can she take a question, please?
Honourable Minister, are you prepared to take a question?
Not at this time, thank you.
The Honourable Minister is not prepared to take a question. Honourable Minister, you may continue.
Because of this dismissive attitude, it explains why local governments have collapsed where other opposition parties govern. En hoekom DA-regerings nou hulle gemors moet sit en skoonmaak. A clean audit doesn't mean everything is sunshine and roses. It means, Speaker, you are honest about what is going right, what is going wrong, and you are or have put sufficient measures in place to ensure there's appropriate consequence management and to correct the problems moving forward. Through our strategic integrated municipal engagements, we review planning, budgeting, and implementation. This year, we will conduct 28 such engagements, monitor all monthly MFMA reports, and issue quarterly reports. Protecting service delivery requires continuing fighting for our residents' fair share, but municipalities must ensure governance translate into results for our residents. Residents must
Honourable Minister, your time has expired. Please take your seat.
Today, Speaker, you get the government.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Your time has expired. I now recognize the Honourable Brinkes. Honourable Member, do you need the podium?
No, thank you very much, Speaker. Honourable Speaker, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Regarding this debate, Speaker, let's make it clear, very clear. The Western Cape Provincial Legislature is far from being capable, along with its municipalities, to rule with justice, equality, and fairness. Recent court rulings criticize the province for failing to meet constitutional duties, and I quote, regarding affordable housing, inadequate public participation, and discriminatory school admission systems. Furthermore, the City of Cape Town's supply chain management and procurement have been flagged by the Auditor General for irregularities, and that is a fact. The so-called clean financial paper trails fails to bring about changes in spatial development. The DA-run province wants more power to entrench its policies and inequality, which will not only affect residents in the province, but will also deny poorer provinces of national pooling and support. The province's quest for a colony undermines the unified national framework as set out in the Constitution. The DA-run province must admit to its failure to keep up with maintenance of infrastructure in poor residential areas, and that its governance on service delivery is pathetic. How efficient it spends financial resources raises much concern.
Honourable Member, your time has expired. Please take your seat. Thank you very much.
I thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Thank you very much. I now recognize the Honourable Stoffel. Can I just get an indication if you need the podium, Honourable Member? I recognize the Honourable Stoffel.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, let me greet the citizens of Western Cape and also the entire chamber. Thank you very much, Speaker, for the opportunity. But before I go to my speech, I want to cautious Member Walters through you, Speaker. Member Walters, allow the MEC of local government to defend his own desk because you are misrepresenting him. And you must be misleading the House.
Honourable Stoffels, please take your seat. Honourable Walters, is that a point of order?
Yes, I believe that's an untruthful attack on my integrity. The minister will defend himself at the end of the speech. This is, I don't believe, parliamentary to cast aspersions on my integrity.
I will revert back to Hansard because I think it's important to look at the pretext, the context, and the post-text of that statement. So I will come back to the House, Honourable Walters. Honourable Stoffels, you may continue.
Development plans, MTDP strategy priority is improve service delivery. The MTDP further elaborates on this and says, meeting the citizen expectation for service delivery will help build trust and confidence in government institutions. I think it is safe to say that Western Cape citizens have lost confidence in the government of the DA. Speaker, the public protector have recently found that the city of Cape Town has not provided basic municipal service to residents of Langa Flats and part of Khayelitsha in line with the constitution. In a DA-run province, metro, Speaker, we have known this as opposition parties, and we have screamed in this house to remind the DA of the responsibility towards these communities. Speaker, we have known this for very long, and we're saying this in this house, that the DA works optics rather than the citizens of this province. The residents from these communities have complained about the deteriorating of sewage infrastructure, refuse collection, delays in repairing roads and water leaks.
Honorable Stoffel, please take your seat.
Communication from the city
Honorable
of Cape
Stoffel,
Town.
please take your seat. Honorable Masipa, is that a point of order?
Honorable Speaker, is the member prepared to take a question?
I will ask the member, Honorable Stoffel. Honorable Masipa, please take your seat. Honorable Stoffel, are you prepared to take a question?
Later on agriculture.
Honorable Stoffel, are you
No,
prepared
no.
to take a question? The honorable member,
Speaker.
Honorable Stoffel, I'm still on the floor. And honorable member, the member is not prepared to take a question. Honorable Stoffel, you may continue.
Therefore, Speaker, want to appeal to the DA, implement the medium-term development plan to its fullest. The MTDP is a guideline for good governance. Speaker, whilst we welcome the public protector findings confirming the city of Cape Town failure to provide basic municipal service to residents of Langa and Khayelitsha, these findings merely validate the residents and independent journalists have been documenting for years. Ground Up has constantly exposed the appalling conditions of Langa hotels and flats, reporting on overflowing sewage, blocked drains, uncollected refuse, overcrowding, the absence of basic sanitation, and decades of neglect in predominantly Black communities. This report demonstrates that the DA-led city has long been aware of the crisis, but failed to take meaningful action. The public protector is today not the famous person amongst the DA. The public protector report should therefore not be treated as a revelation, but as an indictment of years of ignorant complaints and persistent service delivery failures that residents have endured despite repeatedly raising the alarm. We welcome President Cyril Ramaphosa's commitment that the national government will intervene where municipalities are failing to fulfill the constitutional obligation to provide basic services. For too long, residents in struggling municipalities have borne the consequences of poor governance, deteriorating infrastructure, and unreliable water supply. The President assures the government will not
Honorable
hesitate to
Stoffel,
act.
Honorable Stoffel, Honorable Minister, I wish to remind you, if you want to interject, please do so from your bench, your allocated bench. You can only participate on your bench, from your bench. Honorable Stoffel, please continue.
I just want to remind the DA, the ANC is not controlling Canaland. Canaland is being controlled by ICOSA and an independent party. Please. The President assures the government will not hesitate to act, including appointing capable water utilities where necessary. It is positive steps towards restoring accountability and ensuring that communities receive basic service that they are entitled to. Hope that the provincial government, that is the DA, will follow the example set by the national government and intervene in the city of Cape Town to ensure the residents receive service delivery. Please, DA. For years, the Democratic Alliance have built its political ban on the claim that its governance better than everyone else, frequently pointing to clean audits as proof of good governance. But what happened to clean audits in the city of Cape Town? Yet, that the narrative is increasingly being exposed, DA, as incomplete and misleading the people of the Western Cape. 3 DA-run municipalities in the Western Cape, Teerwaterskoof, Laingsburg, Beaufort West, have had portions of their equitable shares funding withheld by National Treasury due to financial governance. You see what our government is doing. Whilst farm dwellers in this same Kanaland that you are mentioning here are without clean water, a constitutional obligation, CISDR. Result of the municipalities can provide them clean water. This development have rightly sparked renewed public debate about whether clean audits are the meaningful measure of governance of municipalities, continuing into...
Honorable Stoffel, your time has expired. Please take your seat. Thank you very much. I now recognize the Minister of Local Government, Environmental Affairs and Development Planning. Minister Bradell, do you need the podium?
No, thank you.
Then you may continue.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, the topic, and I want to thank the Honourable Brian, protecting service delivery, why capable provincial and local government structures must be empowered to deliver more to South Africans. The government must earn public trust through delivery, not through promises. This is a caring topic. This is a topic, how can we do more for our citizens? And all that I hear from the opposition is trying to blame the DA and showcase where the DA failed. And the only conclusion is because they don't have any success stories. None where they govern. Because we can go to Northern Cape, Eastern Cape, Limpopo, where they govern, and look at that. But Honourable Chairperson, through you to the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, if you belong to the most corrupt party in the country, then obviously you think everybody else is corrupt. And let me put it to the House. Honourable Chairperson, I personally don't think there's anything wrong with lobbying. There's nothing wrong to build capacity, to learn from the best, to get new technology in. If that leads to corruption, if that leads to entrepreneurship, then they must prove it. But to stand up in this house and hide behind your freedom of speech and mention people's name. By the way, I personally will stand up and say, none of those people are corrupt. I don't know them as being corrupt. They've never asked me for any favors or anyone that I know of. So why don't they prove it? They can't. Now they want independent investigations, take taxpayers' money to come nowhere. If they've got proof, they must go to the police, lay a case, or bring the proof to the Premier, and we will investigate. But those people aren't corrupt. Thank you, Honourable Chair. Honourable Chair, then just to the Honourable Abrams, because he said to the Honourable Walters through you, Chair, that he must do his research. So I just want to throw it back to him. Hy moet ook sy navorsing.
Honourable Minister, please take your seat. Honourable Gaines, is that a point of order?
I can say that MEC is committed to defending Tony Leon. Is he prepared to take a question?
Please take it. Please take your. The minister is not prepared to take a question. Honourable Minister, you may continue.
Net vir die agbare Abrams, die DA het nice met 'n meerderheid gegee.
Honourable Minister, please take your seat. Honourable Adams, what's your point of order?
Thank you for pronouncing my surname correctly. The Honourable Minister, he doesn't know my surname. He's saying
Honourable Ministers, the Honourable Adams.
Dieselfde moeilikheid, agbare Speaker. Agbare Speaker. Agbare Speaker. Die DA het Knysna alleen regeer 2011.
Honourable Minister, please take your seat. Honourable Adams, is that a point of order?
I want the Honourable Minister to retract that unconditionally. He's saying that he's casting aspersions on me. He must retract.
Honourable Minister, did you refer to the member?
Nou, nee, agbare Speaker, as daar nie humor is nie, vra ek om verskoning. Onttrek, geen probleem.
All right. Before you continue, Honourable Minister, Honourable Adams, I would also like to remind you that pointing to another member is also unparliamentary. There's decorum in this House, and we are all honorable members, and we expect each other to be treated and respect each other in that context. So you can also not point to a member. Honorable Minister, I have not yet.
Oh, sorry.
Can you please take your seat? Honorable Minister, please take your seat. Honorable Adams, was that a new point of order?
Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Minister, you may now continue.
Thank you, achtbare Speaker. Achtbare Speaker, toe na die achtbare Adams, die DA het as 'n meerderheid Knysna regeer 2011 tot 2016. My wiskunde sê is 5 jaar, nie 15 jaar nie. In die 5 jaar het ons die Charlesville pompstasie gebou. Die DA het die rioolplaas gemoderniseer en gebou op 'n moderne standaard. Die DA het die vullestortingterrein gemoderniseer. Die DA het boorgate gesink sodat daar watersekuriteit kan wees. En 3 jaar het die oppositiepartye, en dit moet ek sê, na 2 jaar het die PA besef hulle is in so gemors, so staan hulle uit die koalisie uit. Nou doen hulle niks. Maar niks doen los nie op nie. Hulle was deel van die regering. Hulle het Knysna in die grond in bestuur. Dit is die feite, achtbare Speaker. Nou, achtbare Speaker, ek staan nie hier om vingers te wys nie, want as jy modder gooi, is jou hande ook maar vuil. Ons almal erken, Suid-Afrika verdien beter. En dis waaroor hierdie debat eintlik gaan. Aan die achtbare Soffels ook, ons neem elke public protectors verslag baie ernstig op. Ek verstaan net nie hoekom ons 4 jaar moes wag as hierdie saak so ernstig is om die uitspraak te kry. So mense kan maar vir 4 jaar leef in riool en. Want ons het 4 jaar gewag vir hierdie verslag. So dit sê vir my baie, dis omdat hier 'n verkiesing op pad is. Ek weet nie, maar ons vat elke verslag, ons moniteer dit, ons bespreek dit met die munisipaliteite en ons moet ook onthou dat die goed in 'n konteks gebeur, achtbare Speaker. 'n Konteks van daar was groot brande in Knysna 2017, daar was 'n droogte in 2018, daar was COVID 2019 tot 21, daar was nou hierdie storms en elke keer omdat nasionale regering faal met hulle rampbestuurfondse en hulle sal dit erken, moet ons programme uitskuif, moet ons boeke skuif, sodat ons kan regmaak, sodat mense ten minste die ekonomie aan die gang kan hou. Ver van ideaal, maar ons is 'n regering wat omgee en 'n verantwoordbare regering. So baie van hierdie gesprekke gebeur, wanneer ons begin praat oor regering, achtbare Speaker, dan begin ons eintlik by verkeerde plek, want ons begin by die Unie gebou. Hulle is in elk geval tot nie. So ons moet begin waar dit saak maak, op die straat. Daar waar die mense dienste voel, as hulle die kraan oopdraai in Knysna, is daar nie water nie, of hulle moet water suiwer waar in 'n liggaam gelê het. As jy kyk na jou paaie, jou potholes, as die paaie reg is, dan bring dit mense bymekaar. Vullisverwydering, dis die goed wat vir ons mense saak maak, dis die goed wat vir ons mense menswaardigheid gee. Speaker, maar plaaslike regering is waar ons eintlik die demokrasie van Suid-Afrika beskerm. En dis hoekom ek dink dis 'n ontsettende belangrike gesprek, want ek dink dat in plaaslike regering is waar ons demokrasie aan die gang hou, as regering suksesvol kan wees en as ons dienste kan lewer. Wanneer munisipaliteite
Honorable Minister, please take your seat. Honorable Adams, is there a point of order?
Speaker, I want to raise on a point of correction for the Honorable Minister. It was not 5 years that the DA was in charge in Knysna. It was 9 years, Speaker. Thank you.
Right. Honorable members, we're nearly at the end of the debate. There's 2 minutes and 42 seconds remaining. There's citizens watching this. Order, members, I'm on the floor. Honorable Minister, my apologies for the interruption. You may continue.
Achtbare Speaker, ek kan na Hansat luister. Ek het gesê die DA as 'n meerderheid regering, dis 2011 tot 2016. Achtbare Speaker, wanneer munisipaliteite goed fungeer, floreer gemeenskappe. Dis 'n feit.
Honorable Minister, please take your seat. Honorable Leader of the Opposition, is there a point of order?
Now, will the Honorable Acting MEC for Education and current MEC for Local Government take a question, please, on the City of Cape Town?
Order, member. Honorable Leader of the Opposition. Honorable Minister, are you prepared to take a question? The Minister is not prepared to take a question. Honorable Minister, you may continue. You have 2 minutes and 35 seconds remaining.
wanneer mense vertroue verloor in plaaslike regering en in hulle munisipaliteite verloor hulle vertroue in die demokrasie en wanneer dit gebeur, belê mense nie in munisipaliteite nie. Nou, agbare speaker, ons almal weet, as die ekonomie nie gaan groei nie, gaan ons nie mense in werke kry nie. Gaan ons nie mense uit armoede uitkry nie. En wat eintlik jammer is dat in al hierdie moddergooi tipe debatte kom ons nie by die kern van die probleem uit nie. Ons oorlog is nie teen mekaar nie. Ons oorlog is teen armoede. Hoe kan ons armoede te bowe kom? En ons kan dit net doen as ons saamwerk. Daarom is ons besig in hierdie regering onder die leiding van die premier Ellen Windy, wat vir my opdrag gegee het, gaan doen navorsing met die universiteite om te kyk wat het mense nodig om 'n menswaardige lewe te hê in 'n provinsie. Because that is what we owe people, a dignified life. That is what we as government owe the people. And Honourable Speaker, we're the first to acknowledge that we don't run a perfect machine. There's a lot of challenges. And we can go into that and go again into the mud bath, which won't
Honourable
help
Minister,
the
please
citizens.
take a seat. Honourable Ngenso, is that a point of order?
Does the MSC suggest that?
Is that a point of order? Do not put your point of order. Honourable Member, is that a point of order?
Is the MSC prepared to take a question, given the content
The
of what it just said
Honourable
from the
Member,
Speaker of the
you,
House?
Honourable Ngenso, I allow you an opportunity to raise your point of order. If the minister is not prepared to take a question, you cannot put the question to the minister. Can I please ask the table staff that those kind of deliberate attempts to disregard the chair be removed out of Hansard? Honourable Minister, please, you may continue, and may that be a warning for all members going forward. If you cannot put your question, and we will make sure that it doesn't reflect in the records of this House. Honourable Minister, you may continue.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, ons navorsing het gewys dat die huidige subsidie van 50 eenhede krag en 6 kiloliter water nie spreek tot menswaardigheid nie. Nou, wanneer ons hierdie debat op die tafel sit, is die eerste vraag waarmee ek gekonfronteer word, waar gaan die geld vandaan kom? Who's going to pay for this? Now, I can tell you, I will make the argument that we cannot afford not to have this debate. Because people need more. If we want to get people out of poverty, we need to get to where they can at least have the opportunity to work themselves out of poverty. Government is nie daar om mense net uit te lig nie. Hulle kan hulle self uitlig, maar dan moet ons hulle die tools gee. Die tool is 150 eenhede krag en 10 na 15 kiloliter water. Dit spreek tot menswaardigheid. And that's the kind of debates and the kind of challenges we need to have. On the other hand, we need to acknowledge that the middle income group is also under pressure because municipalities is getting too expensive. This is not a money debate, Honourable Speaker, because there's enough money. It's a debate of a new financial model where we cannot centralize everything at the national level, where there's huge corruption, everything disappears, and we don't get our rightful allocations to local government, where we can protect our people, where we can give our people more dignity, more water, more sanitation, so that they can raise their children in a dignified way. I thank you, Honourable Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister, and thank you very much, Honourable Members. Honourable Members, that concludes the debate on this subject. We now move to questions for oral reply in terms of Rule 202. I wish to advise the Honourable Members that once the Honourable Premier has started the reply to the first oral question as printed on the question paper, Honourable Members who are present online must use the chat facility for the sitting of the House to indicate that they want to ask a follow-up question, and the members inside the chamber to please by raising your hand to give us an indication to the table staff that you want to ask a question. As per the practice, the first follow-up question will be afforded to the member asking the initial question. I recognize the Honourable Premier.
Thank you very much, Speaker, and to the honourable member for asking the question. I'm dealing in this reply with both A and B at the same time. The decision to discontinue the use of the Epping Refugee Reception Centre as a venue for the voluntary repatriation of undocumented foreign nationals was taken by the Department of Home Affairs, which is the national mandate holder for migration and immigration matters in South Africa. Despite this matter not being a provincial government mandate, the Western Cape government went above and beyond to ensure that the process was conducted as seamlessly as possible, with the well-being of those impacted among its primary concerns. The primary function of the Epping Centre is to provide service to refugee applicants. It is used as a repatriation venue and was a temporary measure aimed at assisting the Consulate General of Zimbabwe with the voluntary repatriation of undocumented Zimbabwean nationals who had been congregating at its premises in Cape Town. The voluntary repatriation of undocumented foreign nationals requires a whole of government and a whole of society approach, led by the Department of Home Affairs and supported by the relevant government departments, authorities, and other stakeholders. The Western Cape government remains committed to playing its role in supporting such initiatives where appropriate, feasible, and practical, and where its involvement is required. The entire process was carried out professionally and with the well-being of those affected. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I recognize Honourable Ngenso.
Thank you very much, Premier. Whilst we welcome your intervention, right, as provincial government, in the best interest of our people, it may perhaps be important to take this House into confidence as to under what legislative or policy mandate perhaps did your government provide such a support? As you've already indicated that, of course, it is under the competence of national government on the Department of Home Affairs and Assistance. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honourable Premier.
So thank you very much, the Honourable Gwensu, for that follow-up question. And obviously, you know, this is generally not a mandate of a provincial or a local government in this case. But I'm sure the honourable member knows that prior to that date, the end of the month date, the president called a special meeting with the Minister of Cocta, asked all provinces and municipalities to get involved. And we then, more than a week before, we then activated our Joint Operations Command. At the same time, the system was national government, provincial government, local government, and actually various departments across all three spheres of government. It also involved our NGO sector, faith-based organizations, who were also pulled into the Joint Operations Command. And in actual fact, during this process, at one stage, the pressure was actually too much for consulates to deal with the issues, and especially around the transportation. And at that stage, we got confirmation from national government that we could actually, and the question goes around what kind of extra support was given, not only just controlling and managing it from a Joint Operations Command and across the whole province, where local government made facilities available. Of course, the question is specifically focused on the Epping site. But it wasn't only the Epping site, it was other sites across the province, mainly local government sites. And I must say, first of all, a very big thank you to organizations like the Gift of the Givers, like religious organizations and NGOs who really stepped in to help people with food, that mainly. There was also organizations that stepped in with blankets and other support. And, you know, we held a daily Joint Operations Command And that Joint Operations Command was also, there were national ministers also deployed to different provinces to be involved. And of course, the national minister deployed into our space was Deputy Minister Nell, who attended most of the JOCs. From a procurement point of view, over and above disaster management and what municipalities put in place, like halls, I would say that there wasn't really procurement involved, especially from the Zimbabwean consulate, where there were many people gathered. I must say the city of Cape Town stepped in with their own vehicles, especially from the Safety and Security Directorate, and helped to move people to the processing site that was made available through the National Department in Epping, which was part of the question. But other than that, the main procurement would have been for transport. And so the city procured bus transport and the province procured bus transport. The city budgeted and procured transport mainly from Cape Town, and the province procured bus transport that helped all of the various municipalities with those individuals who wanted to actually get transport back to a processing space that was facilitated by national government in Beitbridge. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honourable Walters.
Honourable Speaker, I would like to ask the Premier whether, given that there's a strong element here of where Home Affairs is also involved, and do you believe with the new minister there, Dr. Leon Schreiber, that the reforms that he is implementing there, do you believe it will assist in making this type of situation be resolved at the end of the day? Do you believe, if you can perhaps reflect if there's good intergovernmental cooperation there? Thanks.
Honourable Premier, before you continue, Honourable Walters, I'm going to ask you to reformulate your question. You're asking a view, the Premier's view, but do you believe, and you asked twice, that is not in terms of the rule. Can I ask that you reformulate your question?
Apologies, Honourable Speakers, because I'm trying to read from my phone. My eyesight isn't great, so that's part of the problem. Well, very simply put, do you believe that or what is your view of the are the reforms that are currently being implemented in the Department of Home Affairs by Dr. Leon Schreiber, is it helpful to the province in this matter? Thank you very much.
Honourable Premier, you may continue.
Thank you. My answer is yes, but I will elaborate a little bit more. I think exactly what is being put in place right now will help us make sure that we don't end up in this kind of situation again, that there are proper processes, that there are trusted processes. Obviously the new systems where we do away with potential fraudulent documentation, where we move to, leading technology systems of facial recognition, of systems of really enabling both South Africans, but of course anybody visiting our country, whether they're visiting as a tourist or coming to look for opportunities in our country, whether they're investing in our country, looking for work opportunities, that those processes are definitely improving vastly. And that the systems being put in place are being modernized in such a way that it is in line with world best practice, and that they are super efficient. And that's what we've got to get right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honourable Gensu.
Thank you very much. Sadly, the Premier could not respond to a question which perhaps was going to help us in respect to the provision from the legislation or policy. But despite that, you are called, to a joint, by the President to step in as all provinces. But given the fact that, there were procurement from the provincial side, as you have indicated, I think this House does need an account as to how much that was spent in the procurement of resources for the transportation of the migrants. Thank you very much.
Honorable Premier.
Thank you very much. I think, when it comes to policy and legislation, of course, the province is not going to write policy and legislation around a regulation of documentation and systems for people entering our country. That is not our responsibility. That is why I started off in the answer that we were operating within and alongside the national department and in actual fact the national departments, because I must say that in this process SAPS played a very, very strong role in the Joint Operations Commands. It was Home Affairs which played a very strong role, also nationally run from a sort of management point of view. They had many officials deployed to each province to make sure that the processing could be dealt with. And so all of these various departments, so it would not be a province's mandate to do legislative and policy. I think it is a fair question to ask what the quantum was for the procurement, but of course, I don't have that on me. That would be a great question to ask. But what I can say is that before that procurement took place, we actually got in writing that we would do the procurement, but we would be refunded by the national department. So, but we can also get that in a separate question, and we'd be more than happy to put that on the table. So we procured, but we procured with the proviso that we received first the letter that said they would cover those costs of that procurement. We would just step in to actually make sure that we could deal with it from an urgency point of view.
Thank you very much, Premier. Honorable Ngaisu, your last opportunity.
Thank you very much. I learned that the provincial government issued a statement to say it is not going to provide transport services anymore, assistance any further. Don't you think that the termination of that, if those reports are true, are not serving the interests of the farm bosses, which are close or enjoy proximity to the DA leadership?
Honorable member, order. Honorable member, so at the similar to Honorable Walters, you're asking the Premier what he thinks. So can you said, do you think? So can I ask that you just reformulate your question? Okay.
Thank you very much. To what extent are farm bosses benefiting on the question of foreign nationals in the farm areas, particularly the undocumented?
Honorable Premier.
So that is a question that would obviously need some research, and I'm not able to just answer that off the cuff. It is also a very different question to the question that was put on the order paper.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, that brings us to the end of question number 1 as printed on the question paper. We move on to question number 3 as printed on the question for oral reply, and I recognize the Minister of Local Government, Environmental Affairs and Development Planning, Minister Bradell.
Honourable Speaker, thank you to Honourable Bryant for the question. The first part of the question, A, what is the current status of disaster risk funding allocations to the province? And B, how is it being utilised to support 1, disaster preparedness, 2, response capacity, and 3, recovery efforts at municipalities across this province? The A part of the question, for the 2026-2027 financial year, the Department of Local Government, through its Provincial Disaster Management Centre, did not receive any disaster-related funding allocations from the National Disaster Management Centre. In previous financial years, however, funding was received from the National Disaster Management Centre as follows. 2022-2023, funding was allocated for disaster recovery efforts, 2023-2024, and 2024-2025 funding was allocated from the disaster for the disaster response. It should be noted that the National Disaster Management Centre allocates disaster-related funding through the first Municipal Disaster Response Grant, which enables municipalities to implement immediate response and relief measures following unforeseen or unavoidable disasters when they are unable to cope with the effects of the disaster using their own resources, and Municipal Disaster Recovery Grant, which provides funding for rehabilitation and restoration of damaged infrastructure, livelihoods, and essential services, thereby supporting long-term recovery and resilience. While these grants are primarily intended to support disaster response and recovery, they also contribute to disaster preparedness by strengthening municipal resilience and promoting the implementation of building back better principles during recovery and reconstruction processes. B1, disaster preparedness. No funding is allocated through the National Disaster Grant specifically for disaster preparedness initiatives. However, response and recovery interventions financed through previous grant allocations have contributed to strengthening the preparedness of municipalities. Also, it's important to note that the Premier has already had a meeting with the National Minister of COCTA as well. We're busy setting up a meeting with the National Minister of Finance to look how we can differently fund or have a different pool of funding for disasters. B2, disaster response. The department has not received disaster response grant funding for 26-27 financial year. In 2023, 2024, 2025 financial years, the National Disaster Management Centre allocated approximately 186 million rand to support response interventions arising from the 2023 and 2024 severe weather events, as well as the Rivulets Dam failure incident in the Swartland municipality. The breakdown of the allocations of the funds is provided below, and I'm going to give it to you. 2023-2024 severe weather events, the Municipal Disaster Recovery Grant funding allocation of a total of 114,087,570 rand. Stellenbosch Municipality, 30,131,677 rand. Langeberg Municipality, 25,730,000 rand. Ouwestrand Municipality, 12,472,227 rand. TWK, 41,303,666 rand, and City of Cape Town, 4,450,000 rand, a total of 114,087,570 rand. Then in the 2023-2024 financial year, severe weather events, that's the storm surges, municipal discovery recovery grant funding allocations, total of 16,369,700 rand. The Swartland Municipality, 350,000 rand. Cederburg Municipality, 7,804,700 rand. Hessequa Municipality, 5,180,000 rand. Knysna Municipality, 2,600,000 rand, and Drakenstein Municipality, 435,000 rand, a total of 16,369,000 rand and 700 rand. 2024-2025 severe weather events and Rivulets Dam failures, the Municipal Disaster Recovery Grant funding allocation of a total of 55,290,664 rand. The Drakenstein Municipality received 1,976,000 rand. Stellenbosch Municipality, 6 million rand. Witzenberg Municipality, 3,612,000 rand. Knysna Municipality, 113,897 rand. Saldanha Bay Municipality, 590,000 rand. Langeberg Municipality, 2,848,000 rand. Swartland Municipality, 9,241,000 rand. Breede Valley Municipality, 7,265,767 rand. Cedarburg Municipality, 6,100,000 rand, and City of Cape Town, 17,544,000 rand, a total of 55,290,664 rand. The B, part 3 of the this disaster recovery, the department has not received disaster recovery grant funding for the 26-27 million rand, although we put in an application of around about 10 billion rand. Previously, disaster recovery grant during the 2022-2023 financial year, the Department of Local Government, through its Disaster Recovery Subdirectorate, administered 284 million rand in disaster recovery funding, which has since been fully implemented and closed out. The grant funded the recovery and rehabilitation of flood damage, roads, water, stormwater, sewage, and electricity infrastructure across several municipalities. These investments played a vital role in restoring essential services, reconnecting communities, safeguarding economic activities, and supporting the recovery of areas affected by severe weather events. It also demonstrated the important role that targeted disaster recovery funding plays in enabling municipalities to restore critical infrastructure and return to normal service delivery following disaster events. The breakdown of the allocation of funds is provided below. 2022-2023 severe weather events, the municipal disaster recovery grant funding allocations of 284,193,985 rand. TWK, Waterskloof Municipality, 11,940,000 rand. Swellendam Municipality, 3,552,620 rand. Breede Valley Municipality, 10,310,000 rand. Oudtshoorn Municipality, 26,516,769 rand. And George Municipality, 231,874,596 rand, a total of 284,193,985 rand. Build Back Better and strengthening resilience. The disaster recovery and rehabilitation are not only about repairing what has been damaged, they also provide the opportunity to strengthen infrastructure and reduce future disaster risk. While disaster grants are governed by strict funding conditions, the province seeks to incorporate Build Back Better principles wherever possible, ensuring that infrastructure is rebuilt in a manner that enhances resilience and provides better protection for communities against future disasters. The value of this approach was evidenced during the severe weather events of May 2026, when a number of recently completed projects that incorporated risk-informed design measures performed well under challenging conditions, helping to limit further damages and improve the resilience of affected areas. The response to the May 2026 severe weather events, despite these investments, the two severe weather events that affected the Western Cape in May 2026 caused significant damage to public infrastructure and disrupted essential services across several municipalities. In response, the Provincial Disaster Management Centre coordinated damage and loss assessments in collaboration with the National Disaster Management Centre, affected municipalities and relevant national and provincial sector departments to establish the extent of the damage and to verify the recovery and rehabilitation requirements. This process is critical to ensuring that funding requirements are evidence-based and accurate, reflects the needs of affected communities. Current recovery funding process in accordance with the Disaster Management Act, sector departments are assessing opportunities to reprioritize existing budgets to fund recovery interventions where possible. At the same time, the Provincial Disaster Management Centre has coordinated with and submitted a funding request to the National Treasury through the National Disaster Management Centre for municipalities and sector departments to support the province's broader recovery efforts. The funding request of 9.97 billion is currently under consideration and the department awaits the outcome. The objective remains to ensure that resources are directed to verified priority needs and that critical infrastructure and services are restored as effectively as possible, and that recovery interventions contribute not only to the immediate restoration, but also to the long-term resilience of communities across the Western Cape. I thank you.
Baie dankie, agbare minister. I now provide an opportunity for Honourable Bryant. You have a follow-up question?
Thank you very much, Speaker, and thank you to the Minister for those questions. And it's good to hear the progress that's being made. But my question is on your comments, Minister, around Build Back Better and the financing required. I mean, realistically, with the potential disasters that are still to come this year and in the coming years, how do we go about ensuring that the infrastructure that we put in place is resilient enough to withstand those incoming disasters in light of the fact that we are limited in terms of our budgets and grants?
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister.
Honourable Chair, this is a very difficult one. A difficult one because obviously we don't have all the finances that we need. When you want to build back better, it's going to cost you 3 times. So it's weighing up, getting it done with speed so that you open the economic arteries of our town so that people can get to the doctors, the hospitals, the schools, etc. And then on the other side, building back better. During these discussions, we also re-look and rethink with the engineers where you've got a bridge, maybe it must become a low water bridge again, acknowledging the fact that in years to come, yes, there will be another flood, and yes, the town will be cut off for 2 days, but then it will be open rather than to rebuild. So in certain instances, you will need to have to build Ashton Bridge, if I may use the example, because that will stand now this floods. And all the comments, I also apologize to the engineers because I said to them, I think they want to build themselves a monument. And I must acknowledge that they were right and I was wrong because the bridge stand. On the other hand, it's important to look at the cost. So that's going to be important to see if National can help us with the funding and the funding application. And I think it's important, Honourable Speaker, that the House also, because we will also appear with our APP in front of standing committees, and we need to understand that we had to stop projects that we've promised so that we can fix, because we don't have extra money. So there might be things in our IPP that we won't get to if we don't get funding from National to assist us. In the 2023, 24, 24, 5, I think we're 700 million under already. And now we need to deal with this massive loss. So it is a massive challenge. It's an ongoing debate. Looking at the future now, I think myself and the Premier's got sleepless nights. We're going to put it out in public also. We're going to get the 2 professors that presented to myself and the Premier through the Disaster Management Centre, their take on weather predictions, El Nino, etc. That's coming our way, and it doesn't look good. Hotter, drier, and if you hear that, you must think what's happening in France, in Spain currently. So already the Premier instructed me to sit with disaster management and start to plan the fire season. And there's a lot of things that we need to get to fall in place. First of all, our own people design, Honourable Chair, a very good IT program where if there's 50 millimeters of rain, you can plot and you can tell the municipality that is your infrastructure that's under threat. Remove it from the riverbeds, remove the people because those areas are going to flood. We've got the same now for fires to look at the hotspots where it's going to burn. We will come back with a plan, and then we will communicate that plan to communities. And my call will be that all communities must take government hand here so that we can together make fire breaks, get our property safe for fires, look at the science behind it, clean our gutters, etc. Because there's no place that's safe when we get the kind of heat waves that we expect. And then also we expect lots of wind. This November, we had 3 times the wind that was ever measured in this province. Wind and water, wind and fires, it's just catastrophic. So it's important for us to discuss and to debate this, but also to communicate it, to get the communities to work with us, because government alone cannot fix this. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Thank you, Agbare Minister. I recognize the Honourable Stoffel.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. MEC, thank you for your response. My question is, what assessment has the department undertaken to determine whether the current disaster risk funding is sufficient to meet municipalities' preparedness, response and recovery needs? Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister.
Honourable Stoffel, correctly. After disaster, actually still in the disaster, we get confronted with that question. What will this disaster cost us, etc., etc. So we've got dedicated teams, and it's not a team from province. It's a team consists of a team in the municipality, province, as well as National Disaster Management Centre. We can do it alone, but they will redo it again then. So we pull them in, we go out, we determine, we get an estimate. Now, we must also acknowledge, and I had this discussion also with the Premier, we can estimate that the damage is 10 billion, more or less. If the tenders come out, it can be 30 billion. So we know the tender processes. It's a open discussion with National Disaster Management, but when they also comfortable with our figures, then we hand it in, because it must go through the National Disaster Management Centre. So, and also with them, and that's why the Premier has asked now for, and Minister Baartman, for a meeting with the National Minister of Finance, because we all acknowledge that we need to look differently at disaster funding. Currently, South Africa's got 600 million rand in the kitty for disasters. Now, only this province sits with 10 billion rand of loss. What about KZN, Gauteng, all the other provinces? So it's not sufficient, and simultaneously with that discussion, we know what's coming. How do we prepare our communities? So the national ministers are on par that we need to have this debate and see where can we tap into to get extra money in the system. We've also gone far further in this discussion. Minister Baartman initiated it to get the insurance companies around and the banks around the table and tell them how can they support us. Now, understanding that they are business, but if we can prove to them that we save you 100 billion rand, 100 million rand of damages in the current fire season, can you sponsor 2 helicopters? Can you, to bring in private sector money as well, to help us to prepare our people? We put in a huge effort on hazmat teams for now also the West Coast, the N7, Swartland Municipality, those areas, the N1's got one, Beaufort West hazmat team, as well as the N2, because you can see more and more trucks on the road. They carry chemicals, they carry fuel, etc. And if one of those trucks is in an accident, you need highly specialized people. So we invest now to prepare in the training of that people, as well as giving them the right equipment to deal with it, because we cannot wait till the accident happens, then ask where's the people to deal with it. So yeah, it's a very interesting but very challenging environment we're currently in. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, honourable members. Are there any further follow-up questions for the Minister? If not, that brings us to the end of question number 3. Order, members. We move on to question number 4, and I recognize the Minister of Mobility, Minister Seleko.
Manbulele Somlomo and Ndibulele nakusihlalo ngombuzo. Honorable Speaker, the Western Cape Mobility Department welcomes PRASA's Western Cape improvements to the Malmesbury rail service, including the introduction of the express service. These improvements represent an important step towards rebuilding passenger rail and making it more attractive and practical option for commuters. Passenger rail remains the statutory responsibility of PRASA. However, Honorable Speaker, that does not mean the provincial government is a bystander. The Western Cape Mobility Department actively monitors these developments through regular bilateral engagements with PRASA, participation in intergovernmental forums, and ongoing engagement between officials. These platforms enable us to discuss operational performance, service improvements, infrastructure matters, passenger demand, and opportunities to better integrate rail with other modes of public transport. Furthermore, Honorable Speaker, we are in the final stages of concluding an institutional memorandum of understanding with PRASA to formalize our existing collaborative working relationship. The memorandum of understanding, Honorable Speaker, will provide the department with greater scope to engage on PRASA's current recovery program, future expansion plans, and the continuous improvements of performance standards. This will strengthen cooperation between the two institutions and enhance our ability to monitor progress, share information, and advocate for improved outcomes for rail commuters in the Western Cape. Honorable Speaker, on the 6th of May 2026, I undertook a passenger rail journey from Malmesbury to Cape Town to engage directly with passengers and observe their lived experience to the service. One of the key takeaways by commuters was that prior to the introduction of the additional express service, high passenger demand often resulted in overcrowded trains. The introduction of the express service is therefore a welcome intervention. PRASA has advised that it provides approximately 700 additional commuter spaces each day, helping to alleviate overcrowding by reducing pressure on the existing service and bridging the gap that previously existed between services. Honorable Speaker, the weekday express service train T2630 departs Malmesbury at 5:25 in the morning and arrives in Cape Town at 20 to 8, while the Saturday service departs at 5:30 in the morning and it arrives at 8 in the morning in Cape Town. The service serves 22 stations, including Cape Town as the terminus, connecting communities such as Abbotsdale, Kalbaskraal, and Kraaifontein before reaching Cape Town. The express service continues to serve 21 of those stations, bypassing Eikenfontein station to improve journey times and service efficiency, while maintaining access to the remainder of the corridor. PRASA has advised that the current stopping pattern is based on operational and historic considerations informed by consultation with commuter structures. These first-hand engagements, Honorable Speaker, continue to inform our discussions with PRASA and complement the operational information we receive through our ongoing engagements with the agency. As these improvements are implemented, we will continue to assess whether they are delivering tangible benefits to the commuters of the Western Cape. These include whether they are providing a functional service through improved connectivity and integration with the broader public transport network, a reliable service, Honorable Speaker, through consistent performance and operational resilience, and an affordable public transport option for residents. While fare determination remains the responsibility of PRASA, we will continue to engage with the agency on initiatives that improve the accessibility and attractiveness of passenger rail within the Western Cape province. Our calls for the devolution of passenger rail function to a competent subnational government or organ of state are getting louder. Given the recovery and expansion plans on the horizon for PRASA, we need passenger rail to take its rightful place as the backbone of the public transport ecosystem. Once the function has been devolved, we will have a greater say in how the operations are managed, and most importantly, Honorable Speaker, how performance standards are maintained and monitored. Honorable Speaker, a reliable rail service is not just about trains running on time. It is about connecting people to jobs, education, healthcare, and opportunity. That is why we will continue working constructively with PRASA to strengthen passenger rail and support an integrated, safe, reliable, and sustainable public transport system for the residents of the Western Cape. I thank you.
Thank you very much. I recognize the Honorable Professor Mbombo.
Thank you, Speaker. Enkosi kakhulu umphathiswa wezothutho. Umbuzo okhawulezileyo endizayibuza into yoba ngeyophi umngeni ajongene nayo uPRASA ukuphucula izinga lenkqubo yoololiwe apha eNtshona Koloni.
Honorable Minister.
Mandibulele ngombuzo Sihlalo. Okokuqala imicelamngeni kuPRASA mininzi. Okokuqala xa sibona abantu basazigibisela itrain nangona zinceda bona. Ngowona mcelimngeni wokuqala. And then okwesibini abantu basayivandalizer istishi zikaPRASA. Nangona kusetyenziswa imali eninzi ukuqinisekisa ukuthi istishi ziyaphucula zibe semgangathweni ukuze abantu xa befuna uya ngasese bayakwazi usebenzisa. Kodwa siyabona abantu baphinda thini abasijongi ezi stishi. And then okwesithathu xa bendikhwele kule training nge-6 kaMeyi Chairperson bakhona ke imicelimngeni malunga i-ticketing isengumcelimngeni. Bakhona abantu abasakhwela uloliwe bengabhatali. So ile nto ke thina singu-mobility sithi sifuna usebenzisana noPRASA ukuthi wonke umntu osebenzisa le train uyakwazi ubhatala. Okwangoku ayenzeki loo nto. So and then enye yezinto xa uyayibona le intloko le etsala le train isuke eMamasbery ukuza apha eKapa ayontloko ebhilonga kuPRASA. So bayithatha kuTransnet ngoba ihamba ngediesel. So enye yezinto engumcelimngeni ngelinye ixesha itrain izawuphuma ngexesha engafanelekanga iphume ngalo okanye ibe late usuka eKapa ukuphindisa abantu ezindlini ngenxa yokuthi le ntloko itsalayo ekaTransnet. So ngeli xesha xa ifika eKapa iyama ngoba abantu bonke bayophangela. And then uTransnet athatha intloko yakhe ayoyisebenzisa kwenye indawo. And then ke ngoku xa kufuneka ihambile ke ngofuneka silinde laa ntloko izophinda itsale ithini isibuyisele ngemva. So eminye imicelimngeni leyo funeka ke isijongisile. Hayi ke siyayazi yonke le signaling. I-signaling seyi-challenge. Uyabona ke usuka kwaChrizani uyosuka eClapper's Club uyabona itrain zithatha mhlawumbi imizuzu eyi-20 kulandele enye. So ngenxa yoba i-signaling. Kodwa ke xa bendithetha no-Group CEO kaPRASA uthe mhlawumbi onyaka uzayo bazama ukhawulelana naloo nto. So yile nto ukuthi sizama usebenzisana nabo ukuthi yonke le micelimngeni sizakwazi uhlangabezana nayo ukuze abantu bethu bafike ezindaweni zabo bephephile. Enkosi.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable Ngensu.
Thank you very much, Chair. Speaker. I like the MS's response, to say his department is not going to be a bystander whilst recognizing that the rail belongs to PRASA. Now, given that attitude and this opportunity, what steps has your department, taken to integrate the upgraded Mamasbery services with other public transport modes, right? Including bus, minibus, taxis to ensure seamless and efficient journeys for commuters traveling to and from stations. Now, you want to go there? It belongs up.
Honorable Minister, you can continue. I thought there was a point of order from Honorable Stoffel. My apologies. Honorable Minister, you may continue.
Thank you very much for that question, Honorable Ngensu. And I didn't want to share this information. But in terms of, I won't focus on what is happening in Mamasbery now, but in terms of what we want to do within the space of mobility, because we believe that all the different modes of public transport must be able to coexist. So when we talk about coexistence, we talk about the feeder service, where the first mile and the last mile. And within the next few weeks, we will be introducing a phase-out approach in terms of how we are going to actually integrate within the space of mobility using minibus taxis to take people to the trains and ultimately to take them to work. That is something that we are going to be releasing within the next few weeks to show how coexistence and integration in the public transport ecosystem can be realized within the Western Cape. Thank you very much.
Honorable Ngensu.
I thank Chair without wasting time because I still want question 16. I want us to get a question 16. Is key. Brilliant. Now, you keep on dropping this question of the memorandum of understanding between your department and PRASA, and in certain respect, the city of Cape Town. I think the question is, are there any timelines? Because now it's about 2 years or so. Where does this talk about this memorandum of understanding or agreement or service level, agreement, whatever concept used? Thanks.
Honorable Minister.
Thethe ngesquati le. Lento ingolhlobo member names. No, let me do this because I want you to be clear because there's a difference between the SLA and the memorandum of agreement between the Department of Mobility. And I must say, because what has been actually one of the challenges to have, we had to take it to our legal department, and then our legal department will give it to us, and then we'll give it to PRASA, and PRASA has to go through the same thing. And because of the urgency of this particular MOU, 2 weeks ago, I had a meeting with a group CEO. And then the legal people were also called from the side of PRASA because we also worried because this thing has been coming for years. Hence, I elevated it to the group CEO of PRASA. And then after a few days, I received a WhatsApp from him. And then I can even show you the WhatsApp that says we are close to actually signing the memorandum of understanding. So I can assure you now, before the end of next month, we will be having a sign-off ceremony between us as Mobility and PRASA because we are closer to finalizing it.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to check at Honorable Mbombo, Honorable Ngensu. Final opportunity.
Yeah, thank you very much. What will be the basic tenets of this memorandum of understanding?
Honorable Minister.
It's simple. It's basically just to have an understanding in terms of a cooperation between us. Because what PRASA is currently engaging on is actually the recovery of the lines. And that is the process they are engaging on. And our interest is to make sure that how do we, in future, link some of our regional towns using rail. And also there are initiatives like your park and rides. That has been part of the memorandum of understanding. So whatever initiative that we identify within our space of mobility will be incorporated to the memorandum of understanding. And also is going to assist us as well when we engage. At least we know our roles and responsibilities, that the information that is shared between us and PRASA is not information that will be used against one another, but it is information that will help us to further, the movement of people within our province using rail as a backbone of public transport. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, honourable members and honourable minister. That concludes question number 4 as printed on the question paper. We move on to question number 5, and I recognise the Minister of Social Development, Minister Lornt.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Kaiser Philander, got a short reply for you, and the time plays along with us. So the first part is you ask how many learners and schools are currently benefiting from the Provincial Sanitary Dignity Program. What is the total budget allocation for this program in the current financial year? The total number is 1,089,998 girl learners in the Western Cape that are currently benefiting from the Sanitary Dignity Project. The second part is the Sanitary Dignity Project is currently being implemented in 715 public schools across the Western Cape. And the last part, for the 2026-2027 financial year, the department has been allocated a budget of 12,995 million for the implementation of the Sanitary Dignity Project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Kaiser Philander, do you have a follow-up?
Yes, thank you very much, Speaker. Speaker, through you to the Minister. Minister, thank you very much. I welcome the positive impact that the Sanitary Dignity Project is having on nearly 190,000 girl learners across our province. I think that is commendable. My follow-up question in this regard, Minister, would be, are there any plans to expand the project or the program in the next financial year? Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honorable Minister.
The short answer is yes. Obviously, we will go to my benchmate and we will argue why we would need extra funding. And we will put everything on the table to show that the little that we get, we spend it well. And that's why we should be entrusted with more. But because we're under tremendous pressure as a government, also recently with the disasters, we can't just look in-house. We need to look externally as well. That is one of the reasons why we did establish the Cape Care Fund, to make sure that projects like this, that we have a proven track record at 715 public schools, how can we expand that? Because there's another 900 schools that might have learners, girl learners that miss school due to this. And 2 days ago, we had an incredible meeting with SPA, and there's already organizations like End Period Poverty that's already working in the schools. And we had a constructive engagement to see how we can expand what we are doing, but also build on what some of these NGOs are doing. And then also they're already doing this, is that they're already in contact with the department to see where we are delivering the services so that they don't duplicate that. And Honorable Stoffels has left now, but Speaker, through you, I know that they're going out to that part of the world, and they already have work that they do in Ladysmith, and they already have work that they do in Zoar. And then I ask you, but what about Van Wyksdorp? What about Carletsdorp? And they said, okay, but give us contact details there. And we've put them in contact with people so that we can expand it, both in the metro, but also the most rural parts in the province, that we make sure that there's not a single girl learner that miss crucial education days because of period poverty. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any? Oh, no, my apologies. I see Honorable Comfort and then Honorable Kaiser Philander.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, for the opportunity, Speaker. Thank you very much, Minister, through you, Chair. Chair, my question is a simple question, Chair. I listened to the Minister, the outright of the unpack for this program and the answers. My question is, how is the schools, is there a specific criteria for the schools that identify, and also to the learners? What criteria is used for this? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I wish to remind you that one follow-up question is permitted. There was 2 follow-up questions, so there's 1 opportunity. Honorable Comfort, I will give you that opportunity at the end. Honorable Minister.
It's good to have the Honourable Comfort back in the House. I think he's just excited to engage. But Speaker, through you, what was done is to see where there's, within the available budget, where do we see the biggest drop-off in participation? So that if you see that there's in a geographical area that it's happening, then you address that. It also helps with the distribution. But as Honourable Comfort would know, you might have a learner coming from Citrusdal or Clan William that sit with the same problem and they're not being covered in this. And that's where we're trying to build these partnerships so that we map out what we are doing. I'm happy to get the full list of criteria and present it to Member Comfort. And also when we come to the committee the next time, you're also welcome to talk about that. And we have a bit more time than the 4 minutes, 50 seconds that's left. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable Kaiser Philander.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Through you to the Minister, Minister, it's very important that these girl children receive these dignity packs on a monthly basis and promptly so as well. What measures are in place to make sure that schools do not run out of stock? Thank you very much, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Honourable Minister.
Honorable Kaiser Philander, that's where the communication comes in, where we need to, and I mean, obviously I grew up in a household with 3 boys. So what I learned later on in life, and when my wife started telling me all of the stuff. So I know that now I know that some girls have heavier flows than others, and others have shorter periods and others longer periods. And that's about communication. What's the needs at that school? Because you might plan for X amount, and then you actually have more needed or less needed. And that's why I love the partnerships that we are going into now as well, so that we can then have that communication. They got told the story about the ambassadors in the schools who actually become a voice for the other children at the schools. And I love the idea, because sometimes you don't want to go to a teacher, you want to go to a peer and have that type of conversation. It's also about working with our sister departments. It's not just about the school, it's about opportunities that flow from this. And I know that my office and the office of Minister Mackenzie is currently in talks about how do we ensure that girls that show promise to excel in sporting codes, that they do not lose out on those opportunities. So it's impossible to do it alone as a government, alone as a department. And that is why we need to work with our sister departments. We need to work together with the NGOs, but also the private sector that comes on board, and make sure that we stretch it a little further, so that if there are schools that they can't then reach it to the end, we need to make sure that we leave no girl learner behind.
Thank you very much. And the last opportunity, Honourable Kanfer.
Thank you, Chairperson. Speaker, I think the MEC covered my last question also with the Chairperson of the Standing Committee queried that. So I think I'm covered in the way. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. That concludes question number 5 as printed on the question paper. We move on to question number 6, and I see the Minister of Cultural Affairs and Sport, Minister Mackenzie.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Honourable Minister, please just be mindful, you have 2 minutes. So there might not be an opportunity for follow-up, but there's 2 minutes remaining. You may continue.
Very difficult, Speaker. Okay. Okay, Honourable Speaker. Yes, thank you, my colleague. Yes, the Department of Cultural Affairs and Sport has progressively strengthened and institutionalized our approach to increasing the participation, development, leadership, and representation of women and girls in sport and recreation. We build on a women in sport agenda and recognizes that increasing participation requires more than once-off programs. It requires enabling a sport ecosystem in which women and girls are able to access sport, participate safely, develop sporting pathways, and progress into leadership and decision-making roles. A key development has been the institutionalization and intention inclusion of the 2025-2026 financial year and the capacitation of women in sport administration, as well as the annual performance plan indicator. During 2025-26, our department achieved is capacitating nearly 200 women through Women in Sport initiatives. The commitment is sustained in 2026-27 with further 200 women targeted. Our department's progress is further supported by our findings contained in our beautiful case for sport. It's a beautiful bed night reading. I know all the members will be interested in reading this wonderful book in the increase in sport and recreation and sustainable development, prepared in conjunction with the Department of, University of the Western Cape Department of Sport. This case for sport provides important evidence for understanding the impact of sustained interventions, particularly in women in sport, as my colleague has asked. And I do think it's important to say, Honourable Speaker, just 2 days ago, we welcomed 180 young people into our program, of more than half of them were women, an agreement that we signed with Northlink more than 2 years ago, and we welcomed them into our Mod Center and our after-school program. And as I say, a lot of them were women, and welcome them in our Mod Center. Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I see you telling me my time is up. Yes.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Honourable members, that concludes, or that brings us to the end of questions for oral reply. Honourable members, outstanding replies will be printed in Hansard. We now move on to statements by members in terms of Rule 145, and I recognize the DA.
Honorable Speaker, today I rise to honor a true legend, the late Honorable Neva Hinana, who represented the communities in Kailija, Nyanga, Guguletu, Crossroad, and Philippi. While serving as MP in Kailija, he remained deeply rooted in politics in his ward, never shying away from taking up issues affecting his community. When he served in this House for 5 years as MP, and as a chairperson of the Standing Committee on Transport and Public Works, never brought unmatched energy to this work. He was a genuine champion for the people, fighting for dignified public transport for commuters who relied on metro rail every day. He cared deeply about human dignity and believed that every worker deserved to travel safely. He later joined the National Assembly as a member of Parliament. There he served on the portfolio of Committee of Employment and Labor, standing up for fairness and workers' rights across our country. He made a lasting contributions to that committee. Hinana's journey was remarkable. He started his career as a laborer in the mining sector and ended up in Parliament. He often shared hilarious stories about the mines. He was a multi-talented man who could speak many languages fluently, including Sesotho, Sa, Matatiela, le Spread. His loss is felt deeply across political lines within our party and most acutely in the communities he served so faithfully. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I extend our deepest and most sincere condolences to the Hinana family, his friends, and all who loved him. May his soul rest in peace, and may his legacy of humble service continue to inspire us all. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. I recognize the African National Congress. Can I please get the podium?
Municipal records confirm that following a sustained campaign led by Saldanha Bay ANC councillors, the long-promised high school in St. Helena Bay moved beyond being merely an idea. In 2020, the Saldanha Bay Council resolved that a portion of St. Helena Bay Earth 80 in Langeville be subdivided and rezoned for education in exchange for Vredenburg Earth 3476 for a new school. In October 2024, Council further approved the waiver of development charges and recorded infrastructure responsibilities for the provincial department. Yet, St. Helena Bay still has 4 primary schools and no high school. 14 buses transport learners as far as 34 kilometers to Vredenburg, Lowville, and surrounding towns, placing children on unsafe roads and worsening overcrowding elsewhere. The acting MEC for Education, Anton Bredel, must explain why a project with identified land, municipal approvals, and waived development charges has not proceeded, and why communities were later told it would not happen. The ANC demands the full project record, reasons for the reversal, annual learner transport costs, and a funded construction timetable.
Thank you very much. I recognize the Patriotic Alliance.
No statement today, Speaker.
Honorable Petrus, is there a point of order?
No statement from us, Speaker.
Honorable order. Honorable members, Honorable Adams, please take your seat. Honorable Petrus, Honorable Adams is indicating he's got a statement in the Patriotic Alliance's slot. But as the parliamentary leader, I accept that there is no statement from the Patriotic Alliance, and I move on to the Democratic Alliance. Order members.
Honourable Speaker, I wish to bring to the attention of the House the remarkable swiftness, resilience and dedication demonstrated by Cape Nature following the severe weather events and destructive flooding that struck our province in May. The severe storm system delivered intense downpours and fierce winds across the Western Cape, impacting approximately 85% of our provincial nature reserves. Hard-hit regions such as the Cederberg suffered significant infrastructure damage. Access roads were washed away, jeep tracks were severely eroded, power grids failed, and visitor facilities were compromised. In addition, the storm disrupted hundreds of bookings and threatened vital ecotourism revenue that directly sustains local livelihoods in rural communities. Yet, true to the spirit of the Western Cape, Cape Nature's leadership, field staff, and rangers responded immediately, working hand in hand with the Provincial Disaster Management Centre, engineering teams, and local municipalities. Within days of the storm passing, critical access routes were cleared, hiking trails were made safe, and campsites were reopened to the public. This proactive response minimized disruption and safeguarded the local tourism economies that depend so heavily on these ecological assets. Honourable Speaker, Cape Nature has once again shown what effective governance and dedication look like in action. I commend the CEO, Dr. Ashley Naidu, and the entire Cape Nature team for their outstanding service in restoring our public reserves so swiftly. I encourage all residents and visitors to support our natural communities by visiting these spectacular reopened reserves. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I recognize the EFF.
Thank you,
The
Chairperson. No statement from the EFF.
Thank you. The NCC. No statement. The ANC. Order members, the ANC. And for the third time, the ANC. I then move on to the DA.
Honourable Speaker, the computerized learner's license test pass rate is a matter of concern nationally. In the Western Cape, since its rollout on the 26 May 2025, the pass rate under the new system is currently below 20%. For many people, a learner's license is the first step towards employment, further education, and greater independence. That's why the CLLT must be both credible and fair. The DA supports the introduction of the CLLT because it strengthens the integrity of the testing process and reduces opportunities for fraud. However, with a pass rate of below 20% in the Western Cape, since its rollout, it is our responsibility to understand why. That's why I recently conducted oversight visits to drivers' license testing centers in George, Knysna, and Bito. I wanted to hear directly from the applicants and officials about their experiences with the new system. What I found was both encouraging and concerning. Officials at Pakastop Driving License Testing Center reported that pass rates are improving as applicants become more familiar with the system. However, I also met applicants who had failed the test multiple times despite preparing thoroughly. Others questioned whether some questions contain wording that is unnecessarily complex appear to have more than one reasonable answer. A parliamentary reply also confirmed that no independent language proficiency assessment was undertaken before the system was introduced, and that the language editing and translations date back to approximately 2007. The answer is not to lower the standard. The answer is to ensure that every applicant is tested fairly while maintaining the integrity of the system. The DA will continue exercising oversight and working with the Provincial Mobility Department, the Road Traffic Management Corporation, and the Department of Transport to ensure that this important reform remains credible, accessible, and fit for purpose.
Thank you very much. I recognize the Freedom Front Plus.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, on the 18th of July, we commemorated the legacy of Nelson Mandela. And if Mr. Mandela was alive today, he would undoubtedly have been very disappointed in the state of our nation.
Can I
Speaker,
order? There's a member on the floor. Honorable Mare, my apologies. Can I please ask that all members that's online, can you please mute yourselves? Honorable Mare, I will restart your time so you can start from the beginning.
thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, on the 18th of July, we commemorated the legacy of Mr. Nelson Mandela. And if Mr. Mandela were alive today, he would have been undoubtedly deeply disappointed at the state of our nation. South Africa continues to be plagued by large-scale corruption, political killings, dysfunctional municipalities, extortion, and state institutions fail to serve the people they were created to serve and protect. Our people are suffering under a weight of poverty, unemployment, and crime, and too many communities are living without hope. While young people are caught up in crossfires of gang violence across the Cape. For many, a life free from fear is unattainable. It is time for South Africa to return to the values that Mr. Mandela once championed: integrity, selflessness, ethical leadership, accountability, and social justice. We must also restore cooperation between political parties by placing the interests of our people above our politics. Only by working together, we can rebuild public trust, strengthen our state institutions, and create opportunities to restore hope and a return to law and order once again. I thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much. Al-Jamaa.
Thank you, Speaker. No statement, Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The DA.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Honorable Speaker, there is no government.
My apologies. My apologies, honorable member. I recognize the ACDP. And the DA.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Speaker. Honorable Speaker, there is no government quite like a government that is led by the Democratic Alliance. Time and time again, the people of the Western Cape have seen a government that responds swiftly, decisively, and effectively when disaster strikes. Following the recent severe flooding that affected many parts of our province, the Western Cape government moved with urgency to restore critical infrastructure and reconnect communities. Examples of these efforts include the successful reopening of the McGregor Bridge and the Divisional Road 1525, also known as the Gouritsmond Road. With respect to the Gouritsmond Road, following the extensive flood damage, it has been reopened to traffic after a quite remarkable effort. The project included rebuilding a 90-meter section on the eastern approach, repairing erosion of up to 5 meters deep, and placing approximately 3,000 cubic meters of rockfill and bulk material to restore this vital transport link. Honourable Speaker, this achievement reflects careful planning, sound investment in infrastructure, and expertise of our engineers, contractors, and technical teams who work tirelessly to complete the repairs as quickly and safely as possible. While many communities were affected by the floods, the Western Cape government once again has demonstrated its commitment to restoring essential infrastructure with urgency, ensuring that residents, businesses, and emergency services can continue to move safely across our province. This is what a capable, responsive, and accountable government looks like. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I recognize the ANC. Honorable Lekker, are you ready? I know that you had some technical issues. Honorable members, I'm going to move on. In terms of Rule 145, subsection 6, I now give one or more members of the executive present an opportunity to respond to members' statements for not more than 5 minutes collectively, if they so wish. Nothing? No response? Honorable members, that brings us to the end of members' statements. We now move on to notices of motions in terms of Rule 151. My apologies. In terms of Rule 151, all notices of motions by members are required to be delivered to the Secretary for placing it on the order paper. These motions have been duly submitted and published on the order paper below the line. We now move on to motions without notice in terms of Rule 150. I would like to inform you that in terms of the Standing Rule 150 pertaining to motions without notice, condolences and congratulatory that was submitted to the Programming Authority prior to this plenary on the 28th of July 2026. Members are also reminded that motions without notice pertaining to congratulatory and condolence will not be allowed in the sitting that have not been processed by the Programming Authority. I have been informed that in the Programming Authority meeting of the 28th of July, political parties submitted the names of honourable members in the desired order of speaking and who had wished to move a motion without notice in this sitting of the House. I will therefore, just for noting and for the purposes of the minutes, call out the honourable members whose names have accordingly been submitted and approved. The following members' motions have been recommended for approval by the Programme Authority as follows. Honourable M.B. Ngensu, Honourable M.B. Ngensu, Honourable M.B. Ngensu, Honourable M.B. Ngensu, Honourable F. Kamfer, Honourable P.Z. Lekker, Honourable M.K. Syed, Honourable N. Mbombu, Honourable P. Johnson, Honourable B.M. van Minnen, Honourable N.P. Masipa, Honourable N.P. Masipa, and Honourable N.P. Masipa. I now put the motions duly submitted and recommended for approval by the Programming Authority to the House. Are there any objections? No objections. Agreed to. The motions will appear in the minutes of the proceedings and in Hansard in each individual member's name as if the member had read them aloud. I will now afford an opportunity to members to move motions without notice as per Standing Rule 150, subsection 3, subsection D. This could also include motions without notice that were not approved in the Programming Authority meeting. Members are reminded that the 30 minutes as per Standing Rule 150, subsection 3, subsection D will start now, and I recognize the Honourable Ngensu.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I move without notice that this House condemns in the strongest terms possible the apparent orchestrated destabilization of the Department of Mobility and the highly suspicious so-called early retirement of the former head of department, that the House further knows that the destabilization of the department bureaucrats will not serve the interests of the people of the Western Cape, but only those who stand to benefit from such instability. This House must therefore call on the Premier to institute an independent inquiry into the circumstances surrounding the departure of the former head of the Department of Mobility, including whether the MEC orchestrated or unduly influenced her premature exit from the department. I so move.
Order, members. Order, honourable member, please take your seat. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? There is an objection and the motion will be printed on the order paper. I recognize the Honourable Kamfer.
When you object, thank you, Honourable Speaker. Motion without notice. Speaker, achtbare Speaker, dat die huis met diep skok en verantwoordelike kennis neem dat die tragiese voorval waarin die 6 kinders van Kailitsa in die hospitaal opgeneem is nadat hulle bewering besmette koeldrink uit 'n plaaslike spasie opgedrink het, dat hierdie voorval die ernstige tekortkominge in voedsel, veiligheid en wetstoepassing bloot lê en dat hierdie kinders uit arm gemeenskappe steeds die hoogteprys daarvoor betaal, dat die huis ons beste wense uitspreek aan die spoedige herstel van die kinders en ons medelyde aan die familie betuig. Ons doen 'n beroep op 'n dringende, deursigtige ondersoek en 'n onmiddellike verwydering van alle onveilige produkte en vervolging van verantwoordelike ten strenge inspeksie van wettoepassing en eis die versekering dat geen kind ooit weer onveilig of in drank of enigiets in gevaar sal stel nie. I so move.
Baie dankie aan die agbare lid. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? No objections. Agreed to. I recognize the Honourable Van Vogel. Die agbare Van Vogel.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, on behalf of the ANC, I move without notice that the House notes with great concern that Western Cape schools have suffered losses exceeding 2.1 million following 67 incidents of burglary and vandalism at 57 schools during June-July schools holidays, with school nutrition programs, kitchen and computer rooms among the primary targets. The House further notes that every act of theft and vandalism against the school is an attack on the constitutional rights of children to quality education and depriving learners of essential resources and disrupting teaching and learning and diverting scarce public funds away from classrooms and learner support towards repairing criminal damages. The House condemns these criminal acts in the strongest possible terms and expresses solidarity with affected school communities and calls on the Western Cape government to urgently strengthen securities at vulnerable schools and enhance collaboration with law enforcement and local communities and ensure that those responsible are swiftly apprehended and prosecuted. The House further calls on the provincial government to present a comprehensive strategy to protect public education infrastructure and prevent schools from repeatedly becoming soft targets for criminals, as learners should never be forced to pay the price for government's failure to adequately safeguard public assets. I so move. Thank you, Speaker.
Baie dankie aan die agbare lid. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? No objections. Agreed to. I recognize the Honourable Stoffel.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Motion without notice that the House notes Premier Ellen Windi recent public announcement that he had met with the Council General of People's Republic of China to discuss strengthening economic cooperation between Western Cape and China, and that he would be leading the province participation in the South African China investment mission focused on investment and economic growth. Further notes with concern that this strategic economic engagement appear to have taken place without the visible participant of the executive member constitutionally responsible for economic development and tourism. Recognize that this raises legitimate question about whether the Premier is increasingly centralizing responsibilities that is properly belong to the relevant executive authority, and whether MEC Mayor is being demoted to a ceremonial role and is deliberately sidelined from strategic engagement affecting his own portfolio, and calls upon Premier to explain whether he has lost the confidence in MEC Mayor and why the MEC was absent from this important engagement. I so move.
Thank you very much, honourable members. Are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? There is an objection and the motion will be printed on the order paper. Honourable Ngentsu.
Honourable Ngentsu. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Speaker. I move without notice that the House commends the South African Police Service for the successful anti-gang operations conducted in the Western Cape, which resulted in the seizure of drugs valued at approximately 10 million rand and recovery of about 12 firearms linked to criminal activity. The House recognizes that these operations represent a significant intervention in disrupting organized crime networks that fuel gang violence, drug trafficking, and the illegal proliferation of firearms in communities across the province. The House further commends the dedication, bravery, and commitment of SAPS members who continue to place their lives at risk to remove dangerous criminals and illegal weapons from our streets. The House calls for continued intelligence-driven operations, stronger cooperation between law enforcement agencies, and sustained efforts to dismantle the criminal syndicates that threaten the safety and security of Western Cape communities. The House reaffirms its support for all law enforcement officials working to restore safety, protect communities, and ensure that those involved in organized crime face the full might of the law. I so move.
Baie dankie, agbare lid. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? No objections. Agreed to. I recognize the Honourable Stoffel.
Motion without notice. I move that the House notes with grave concern that the damning findings contained in the Public Protector report into the City of Cape Town wish to find that the city committed maladministration and failed in its constitutional and statutory obligation to progressively realize the rights of residents in Langa flats and part of Khayelitsha to basic municipal services. The House further notes that the report identifies serious shortcomings in the previous and of sanitation, provision of sanitation, water, waste removal, housing, and other essential municipal services, leaving residents endure conditions that undermine their dignity, health, and quality of their life despite repeated complaints and engagement with the city. The House expressed concerns that these findings expose the failure of the Democratic Alliance-led City of Cape Town to govern equitably and to uphold the constitutional rights of all residents rather than ensuring fair and responsive service delivery. The DA administration has presided over deepening inequalities, with poor and historical disadvantaged communities continuing to experience neglect while being denied the basic service they are entitled to receive. The House further notes that the findings of the Public Protector reinforce long-standing concerns about the unequal provision of municipal services and serve as a reminder that no municipality is above constitutional scrutiny and or accountability. The House therefore calls on the City of Cape Town to fully and urgently implement the remedial action directed by the Public Protector, provided regular public updates on its compliance and take immediate steps to restore the dignity and rights of affected residents. The House further calls on provincial government to exercise its oversight responsibility without fear and favor and ensure that the DA-led city is held fully accountable for the implementation, the Public Protector's finding and remedying and the injustice suffered by the affected communities. I so move.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Honourable Members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? There is an objection and the motion will be printed on the order paper.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Premier. Thank you very much, Speaker. I move without notice that the House notes with concern the continued pursuit by the DA-led Western Cape government of legislative provisions that would allow for the impoundment of vehicles, despite widespread concerns about the disproportionate impact such measures would have on the black-owned minibus taxi industry. The House further notes that while road safety and compliance with transport laws are essential, enforcement measures must be fair, equitable, and developmental, and should not undermine the livelihoods of thousands of taxi operators, drivers, and their families who depend on the industry for their economic survival. That the House expressed concern that the vehicle impoundment has proposed risks deepening poverty, increasing unemployment, and placing further strain on industry that remains the primary mode of transport for millions of commuters. The House therefore calls on the Western Cape government to abandon punitive approaches in favor of meaningful engagement in the taxi industry, strengthen support for compliance through practical interventions, and pursue transport policies that promote road safety whilst protecting jobs, livelihoods, and the economic inclusion of historical disadvantaged communities. I so move.
Thank you very much. Are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? There is an objection and the motion will be printed on the order paper. Order, Honorable Ngaitu.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Bantu consultants. Speaker, I move without notice that the House notes the appointment of Major General Janki as the Provincial Commissioner of the South African Police Service in the Western Cape. The House further notes that while welcoming the appointment, the acting National Commissioner missed an opportunity to provide the Western Cape with a long-term leadership stability despite needs. Years of acting appointments and leadership changes have undermined continuity, strategic planning, and public confidence in SAPS. And the province requires stable leadership capable of driving sustained policing reforms. The House further notes that Major General Janki now has the responsibility of restoring confidence in the police service. His tenure must prioritize strengthening crime intelligence to support intelligence-led policing, intensifying the fight against violent crime through visible policing, effective detective work, and stronger inter-agency coordination, and addressing the underrepresentation of women in senior SAPS leadership to advance transformation within the service. The House further calls on Provincial Commissioner to discharge his responsibility independently and without fear, favor, or prejudice. He must remain loyal to the Constitution and the people of the Western Cape, not become a puppet of the DA-led provincial government, nor allow. No, listen, this one is fine. Listen to this one. Listen to this one.
Order.
Okay, listen, this one is important. This one also important. Nor allow criminal syndicates and underworld networks to influence policy. The House affirms that the independence and integrity of the Provincial Commission are essential to restoring public confidence in the South African Police Service. What will you be rejecting? I so move.
Order. Before I put it to the House, Honorable Premier, is that a point of order?
Speaker, on a point of order, could I request that the honourable member just remove the DA puppet from that statement and then we could support it?
Well, I will put it to the member if he will amend his own motion as amended. Before I put it to the House, if the table staff can just guide if I'm in line. So according to the rules, honourable member, if you want to amend your motion, you can do so.
Let me put it differently. That the newly appointed provincial commissioner, that he discharge his duties in line with the Constitution and not be controlled by the DA-led provincial government.
Therefore, I'm going to put the motion as delivered. Are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? There is an objection. There is an objection, and the motion will be printed on the order paper. Honourable Ngaitu. Yeah.
Finally. You are complicit to the entanglement of the police with the underworld criminal network. You just rejected a motion. Shame on you. Speaker, I move without notice that the House notes with serious concern the collapse of the city of Cape Town's much publicized 100 million eye in the sky aerial surveillance project, after the mayor confirmed that the initiative had been abandoned because it had become too expensive due to escalating costs. The House further notes that this explanation contradicts earlier assurances that the project had been terminated due to contractual non-compliance, raising serious questions about transparency, financial planning, and accountability in the management of public funds. The House expresses concern that while violent crime, gang activity, and shootings continue to plague communities across the Western Cape, the Democratic Alliance-led City of Cape Town has failed to deliver on one of its flagship crime-fighting initiatives, despite spending millions of rands on public money. The House further notes that the residents deserve a full account of how public funds, Premier, were spent, what value was derived from the project, and why conflicting explanations have been provided for its collapse. The House therefore calls on the City of Cape Town to publicly disclose the full expenditure incurred on the project, account for the outcomes achieved before its cancellation, and ensure that any future crime-fighting technology procurement is transparent, cost-effective, and delivers measurable improvements in public safety. The House further calls on the Democratic Alliance Administration to prioritize accountability, good governance, and effective crime prevention over expensive projects that fail to deliver for the people of Cape Town. I so move.
Thank you very much. Are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? There is an objection, and the motion will be printed on the order paper. I recognize the Honorable Professor Mbombo.
Thank you, Speaker. I move without notice that the House notes with a grave concern the escalating criminal attacks on public transport in the Western Cape, including the torching of 3 Qatar taxis at the Nyanga taxi rank, the stoning of 18 Golden Arrow buses in Tafelsag over 2 days, and the continued attacks on Sibanye buses in Danung. Further condemns these acts of violence and intimidation that endanger commuters, disrupt access to work, education and healthcare, and undermine confidence in province's public transport network. Welcomes the cooperation between transport operators and law enforcement to prevent further attacks, and also calls on the South African Police Service to intensify intelligence-led policing, ensure those responsible are arrested, prosecuted, and convicted, and restore safety for all public transport users. I so move.
Thank you very much. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? No objections. Agreed to. I recognize the Honourable Walters.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I call on the House, or ask the House to note that years of underinvestment by the National Government's Department of Water and Sanitation in the Olifantsrivier River Valley has led to severe knock-on effects to the local municipalities of Cederberg and Matsikama, affecting water supply to farms, businesses and homes. This leaves these municipalities with the enormous task of trying to pick up the pieces and having to use its scarce budget for this purpose where it otherwise could have been used for social support or other forms of job creating infrastructure investment. I call on the House to note the Western Cape Government's outstanding efforts in going beyond its mandate to try to fill the gap left by national government, and call on the national government to urgently prioritise its mandate of providing water in its budgeting processes. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? No objections. Agreed to. Agreed to. We move on. Agbare Professor Mbombo.
The House notes the success of the Western Cape Government's Job Seeker Travel Voucher Program in George, which is removing transport costs as a barrier to employment for unemployed residents. Further notes that more than 2,300 job seekers have registered for the program. Over 1,300 Go George Gold cards have been issued, and participants have already taken approximately 1,300 free bus trips to attend interviews, submit job applications, and access employment opportunities. Acknowledges the positive partnership between the Western Cape Government, the George Local Municipality, and the Garden Road District Municipality, and commends the Department of Mobility for creating opportunities that connect residents with employment and support economic growth. I so move.
Baie dankie aan die agbare lid. Are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? No objections. Agreed to. I recognize the Honourable Professor Mbombo.
Thank you, Speaker. I move without notice that the House notes the City of Cape Town's continued investment in building a safer and more reliable MyCity public transport system. Further notes the successful testing of City's first fully electric MyCity bus and the procurement of 38 battery electric buses that will serve expanded Cape Flats routes benefiting more than 1.4 million residents across 30 neighborhoods. Acknowledge the ongoing refurbishment of my city fleet to improve safety, comfort, and reliability on high demand routes, and commends the city for maintaining my city operations at Killarney Station following the recent fire while ensuring commuters continue to have access to safe and reliable public transport. I so move.
Baie dankie, agbare lid. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? No objections. Agreed to. Thank you very much. I recognize the Honourable Professor Mbombo.
I move without notice that the House notes the decisive action by the Western Cape Department of Mobility to improve the safety and reliability of public transport through intensified enforcement against illegal operators. Further notes that the department cancelled 118 unused operating licenses, launched 111 investigations into legal operations and license violations, and targeted enforcement in hotspots, including Atlantis and Somerset West. Acknowledge that these interventions protect commuters, support law-abiding operators, and strengthen confidence in the province's public transport system, and commends the department for their commitment to ensuring a safe, fair, and lawful public transport sector. I so move.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? There's no objections. Agreed to, and I recognize the Honourable Van Minen.
I hereby move without notice that the House notes with grave concern the brazen and brutal attack on a husband and wife at their farmhouse on Netlingshof Wine Farm along the Polka Dry Road, Stellenbosch, on the evening of 24 July 2026. Further notes that this incident follows a series of house burglaries and armed attacks on farms and in neighbouring communities across the greater Stellenbosch area and the Cape Winelands over recent months. Acknowledges the fear and trauma experienced by farming communities, agricultural workers, and residents who continue to face escalating levels of violent crime. Recognizes the vital role that farming communities play in the Western Cape's economy, food security, and employment, and that they deserve to live and work in safety and security, and calls on the South African Police Service to intensify visible policing, strengthen rural safety operations, and ensure that those responsible for these attacks are swiftly apprehended and brought to justice. I so move.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? No objections. Agreed to. I recognize the Honourable Van Minen.
I hereby move without notice that the House notes the appearance of two accused before the Muizenberg Magistrates Court in connection with an alleged 14 million rand romance fraud and money laundering scheme. Further notes with concern the growing prevalence of online romance scams, which exploit vulnerable individuals emotionally and financially, often resulting in devastating personal and financial losses. Acknowledges the work of law enforcement agencies in investigating sophisticated financial crimes and bringing those allegedly responsible before the courts. Recognizes the importance of strengthening public awareness, cybercrime prevention, and financial fraud detection to protect South Africans from increasingly sophisticated online scams, and calls on the South African Police Service and all relevant enforcement agencies to continue prioritizing the investigation and prosecution of organized cyber-enabled financial crimes while ensuring that those found guilty face the full might of the law. I so move.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? Is that an objection? There is an objection and the motion will be printed on the order paper. I recognize the Honourable Kaiser Philander.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Speaker, I move without notice that the House notes with concern President Cyril Ramaphosa's decision to appoint Ms. Dina Pule as Minister of Social Development, despite previous adverse findings against her by the Public Protector and Parliament. Further notes that Ms. Pule was previously removed from Cabinet following findings of maladministration and improper conduct, was reprimanded by Parliament for breaching her oath of office, and bringing Parliament into disrepute, and that aspects of her conduct were referred for criminal investigation. Recognizes that the appointment of individuals with questionable records to senior positions in government reinforces the perception of a pattern by the African National Congress of prioritizing political loyalty, factional interests, and internal party consideration over merit, integrity, and accountability. Acknowledges that the Department of Social Development administers one of government's largest budgets and provides essential services to millions of vulnerable South Africans, requiring leadership of the highest ethical standard and unquestionable competence, and calls on the President to place merit, integrity, and the interest of the people of South Africa above party political considerations when making cabinet appointments, and to ensure that those entrusted with public office uphold the highest standards of ethical governance and accountability. I thank you, Speaker.
You can only object once it is put to the House to object, and I haven't gotten there yet. Are there any objections to the motion being? Are there any objections to the motion being? Are there any objections to the motion being moved without
Object.
notice? There
Object.
is an objection and the motion will be printed on the order paper. Honourable members, that concludes motions without notice, and that also brings us to the end of the business of the day. The secretary will now end the meeting and the House is adjourned.